part as the result of studying the writings of this great Swiss physician. The utter contempt which Paracelsus felt for the narrow systems of medicine in vogue during his lifetime and his conviction of their inadequacy are best expressed in his own quaint way. But the number of diseases that originate from some unknown causes is far greater than those that come from mechanical causes, and for such diseases our physicians know no cure, because not knowing such causes they cannot remove them. All they can prudently do is to observe the patient and make their guesses about his condition, and the patient may rest satisfied if the medicines administered to him do no serious harm and do not prevent his recovery. The best of our popular physicians are the ones that do least harm, but unfortunately some poison their patients with mercury, others purge them or bleed them to death. There are some who have learned so much that their learning has driven out all their common sense, and there are others who care a great deal more for their own profit than for the health of their patients. A disease does not change its state to accommodate itself to the knowledge of the physician, but the physician should understand the causes of the disease. A physician should be a servant of nature, and not her enemy. He should be able to guide and direct her in her struggle for life, and not throw, by his unreasonable interference, fresh obstacles in the way of recovery. From De Paragranum, translated by Franz Hartmann. The belief that nearly all diseases have their origin in the invisible nature of man, the astrum, is a fundamental precept of Hermetic medicine, for while Hermetists in no way disregarded the physical body, they believed that man's material constitution was an emanation from, or an objectification of, his invisible spiritual principles. A brief but fairly comprehensive resume of the Hermetic principles of Paracelsus follows. There is one vital substance in nature upon which all things subsist. It is called archeus, or vital life force, and is synonymous with the astral light or spiritual air of the ancients. In regard to this substance, Eliphas Levi has written, "Light, that creative agent, the vibrations of which are the movement of life and all things. Light, latent in the universal ether, radiating about, absorbing centers, which, being saturated thereby, project movement and life in their turn, so forming creative currents. Light, astralized in the stars, animalized in animals, humanized in human beings. Light, which vegetates all plants, glistens in metals, produces all forms of nature, and equilibrates all by the laws of universal sympathy. This is the light which exhibits the phenomena of magnetism, divined by Paracelsus, which tinctures the blood, being released from the air as it is inhaled and discharged by the hermetic bellows of the lungs." The History of Magic. This vital energy has its origin in the spiritual body of the earth. Every created thing has two bodies, one visible and substantial, the other invisible and transcendent. The latter consists of an ethereal counterpart of the physical form. It constitutes the vehicle of archeus, and may be called a vital body. This etheric shadow sheath is not dissipated by death, but remains until the physical form is entirely disintegrated. These etheric doubles, seen around graveyards, have given rise to a belief in ghosts. Being much finer in its substances than the earthly body, the etheric double is far more susceptible to impulses and inharmonies. It is derangements of this astral light body that cause much disease. Paracelsus taught that a person with a morbid mental attitude could poison his own etheric nature, and this infection, diverting the natural flow of vital life force, would later appear as a physical ailment. All plants and minerals have an invisible nature composed of this archeus, but each manifests it in a different way. The title page of the Book of Alzey, from Museum Hermeticum Reformatum et Amplificatum. This title is a further example of Hermetic and alchemical symbolism. The seven-pointed star of the sacred metals is arranged that one black point is downward, thus symbolizing Saturn, the destroyer. Beginning in the space immediately to the left of the black point, reading clockwise, discloses the cryptic word vitriol, formed by the capital letters of the 7 Latin words in the outer circle. Concerning the astral light bodies of flowers, James Gaffarel, in 1650, wrote the following: "I answer that though they be chopped in pieces, brayed in a mortar, and even burnt to ashes, yet do they nevertheless retain, by a certain secret and wonderful power of nature, both in the juice and in the ashes, the self-same form and figure that they had before. And though it be not there visible, yet it may by art be drawn forth and made visible to the eye by an artist. This perhaps will seem a ridiculous story to those who read only the titles of books, but those that please may see this truth confirmed if they but have recourse to the works of M. Duchesne S. de la Voilette, one of the best chemists that our age hath produced, who affirms that himself saw an excellent Polish physician of Cracovia, who kept in glasses the ashes of almost all the herbs that are known, so that when any one out of curiosity had a desire to see any of them, as for example a rose, in one of his glasses, he took that where the ashes of a rose were preserved, and holding it over a lighted candle, so soon as it ever began to feel the heat, you should presently see the ashes begin to move, which, afterwards rising up, and dispersing themselves about the glass, you should immediately observe a kind of little dark cloud, which, dividing itself into many parts, it came at length to represent a rose, but so fair, so fresh, and so perfect a one, that you would have thought it to have been as substantial and as odoriferous as a rose, as grows on the rose tree. Unheard of curiosities concerning talismanical sculpture of the Persians. Paracelsus, recognizing derangements of the etheric double as the most important cause of disease, sought to reharmonize its substances by bringing into contact with it other bodies whose vital energy could supply elements needed, or were strong enough to overcome the diseased conditions existing in the aura of the sufferer. Its invisible cause having thus been removed, the ailment speedily vanished. The vehicle for the archeus, or vital life force, Paracelsus called the mumia. A good example of a physical mumia is vaccine, which is the vehicle of a semi-astral virus. Anything which serves as a medium for the transmission of the archeus, whether it be organic or inorganic, truly physical or partly spiritualized, was termed a mumia. The most universal form of the mumia was ether, which modern science has accepted as a hypothetical substance, serving as a medium between the realm of vital energy and that of organic and inorganic substance. The control of universal energy is virtually impossible, save through one of its vehicles, the mumia. A good example of this is food. Man does not secure nourishment from dead animal or plant organisms, but when he incorporates their structures into his own body, he first gains controls over the mumia, or etheric double of the animal or plant. Having obtained this control, the human organism then diverts the flow of the archeus to its own uses. Paracelsus says, that which constitutes life is contained in the mumia, and by imparting the mumia we impart life. This is the secret of the remedial properties of talismans and amulets, for the mumia of the substances of which they are composed serves as a channel to connect the person wearing them with certain manifestations of the universal vital life force. According to Paracelsus, in the same way that plants purify the atmosphere by accepting into their constitutions the carbon dioxide exhaled by animals and humans, so may plants and animals accept disease elements transferred to them by human beings. These lower forms of life, having organisms and needs different from man, are often able to assimilate these substances without ill effect. At other times, the plant or animal dies, sacrificed in order that the more intelligent and consequently more useful creature may survive. Paracelsus discovered that in either case, the patient was gradually relieved of his malady, when the lower life had either completely assimilated the foreign mumia from the patient, or had itself died and disintegrated as the result of its inability to do so. Complete recovery resulted. Many years of investigation were necessary to determine which herb or animal most readily accepted the mumia of each of various diseases. Paracelsus discovered that, in many cases, plants revealed by their shape the particular organs of the human body which they served most effectively. The medical system of Paracelsus was based on the theory that, by removing the diseased etheric mumia from the organism of the patient and causing it to be accepted into the nature of some distant and disinterested thing of comparatively little value, it was possible to divert from the patient the flow of the archeus which had been continually revitalizing and nourishing the malady. Its vehicle of expression being transplanted, the archeus necessarily accompanied its mumia, and the patient recovered. The Hermetic Theory Concerning the Causations of Disease. According to the Hermetic philosophers, there were 7 primary causes of disease. The first was evil spirits. These were regarded as creatures born of degenerate actions, subsisting on the vital energies of those to whom they attached themselves. The second cause was a derangement of the spiritual nature and the material nature. These two, failing to coordinate, produced mental and physical subnormality. The third was an unhealthy or abnormal mental attitude. Melancholia, morbid emotions, excess of feeling, such as passions, lusts, greeds, and hates, affected the mumia, from which they reacted into the physical body, where they resulted in ulcers, tumors, cancers, fevers, and tuberculosis. The ancients viewed the disease germ as a unit of mumia which had been impregnated with the emanations from evil influences which it had contacted. In other words, germs were minute creatures born out of man's evil thoughts and actions. The fourth cause of disease was what the Orientals called karma, that is, the law of compensation, which demanded that the individual pay in full for the indiscretions and delinquencies of the past. A physician had to be very careful how he interfered with the workings of this law, lest he thwart the plan of eternal justice. The fifth cause was the motion and aspects of the heavenly bodies. The stars did not compel the sickness, but rather impelled it. The Hermetists taught that a strong and wise man ruled his stars, but that a negative, weak person was ruled by them. These 5 causes of disease were all superphysical in nature. They must be estimated by inductive and deductive reasoning and a careful consideration of the life and temperament of the patient. The 6th cause of disease was a misuse of faculty, organ, or function, such as overstraining a member or overtaxing the nerves. The 7th cause was the presence in the system of foreign substances, impurities, or obstructions. Under this heading must be considered diet, air, sunlight, and the presence of foreign bodies. This list does not include accidental injuries. Such do not belong under the heading of disease. Frequently, they are methods by which the law of karma expresses itself. Johannes Baptista van Helmont, from Van Helmont's Ausgang der Artsenkunst. At the beginning of the 17th century, van Helmont, the Belgian alchemist, to whom, incidentally, the world is indebted for the common term gas as distinguished from other kinds of air, while experimenting with the root of A, touched it to the lip of his tongue without swallowing any of the substance. He himself describes the result in the following manner. Immediately, my head seemed tied tightly with a string, and soon after there happened to me a singular circumstance, such as I had never before experienced. I observed with astonishment that I no longer felt and thought with the head, but with the region of the stomach, as if consciousness had now taken up its seat in the stomach. Terrified by this unusual phenomenon, I asked myself and inquired into myself carefully, but I only became the more convinced that my power of perception became greater and more comprehensive. This intellectual clearness was associated with great pleasure. I did not sleep, nor did I dream. I was perfectly sober, and my health was perfect. I had occasionally had ecstasies, but these had nothing in common with this condition of the stomach, in which it thought and felt, and almost excluded all cooperation of the head. In the meantime, my friends were troubled with the fear that I might go mad, but my faith to God and my submission to His will soon dissipated this fear. This state continued for 2 hours, after which I had some dizziness. I afterwards frequently tasted of the A, but I never again could reproduce these sensations. Van Helmont, Dement's Idea, reprinted by P. Davidson in The Mistletoe and Its Philosophy. Van Helmont is only one of many who have accidentally hit upon the secrets of the early priestcrafts, but none in this age give evidence of an adequate comprehension of the ancient Hermetic secrets. From the description Van Helmont gives, it is probable that the herb mentioned by him paralyzed temporarily the cerebral-spinal nervous system, the result being that the consciousness was forced to function through the sympathetic nervous system and its brain, the solar plexus. According to the Hermetists, disease could be prevented or successfully combated in 7 ways. First, by spells and invocations, in which the physician ordered the evil spirit causing the disease to depart from the patient. This procedure was probably based on the biblical account of the man possessed of devils, whom Jesus healed by commanding the devils to leave the man and enter into a herd of swine. Sometimes the evil spirits entered a patient at the bidding of someone desiring to injure him. In these cases, the physician commanded the spirits to return to the one who sent them. It is recorded that in some instances, the evil spirits departed through the mouth in the form of clouds of smoke, sometimes from the nostrils as flames. It is even averred that the spirits might depart in the form of birds and insects. The second method of healing was by vibration. The inharmonies of the bodies were neutralized by chanting spells and intoning the sacred names, or by playing upon musical instruments and singing. Sometimes articles of various colors were exposed to the sight of the sick, for the ancients recognized, at least in part, the principle of color therapeutics, now in the process of rediscovery. The third method was with the aid of talismans, charms, and amulets. The ancients believed that the planets controlled the functions of the human body, and that by making charms out of different metals, they could combat the malignant influences of the various stars. Thus, a person who is anemic lacks iron. Iron was believed to be under the control of Mars. Therefore, in order to bring the influence of Mars to the sufferer, around his neck was hung a talisman made of iron, and bearing upon it certain secret instructions reputed to have the power of invoking the spirit of Mars. If there was too much iron in the system, the patient was subjected to the influence of a talisman composed of the metal corresponding to some planet having an antipathy to Mars. This influence would then offset the Mars energy and thus aid in restoring normality. The fourth method was by the aid of herbs and simples. While they used metal talismans, the majority of the ancient physicians did not approve of mineral medicine in any form for internal use. Herbs were their favorite remedies. Like the metals, each herb was assigned to one of the planets. Having diagnosed by the stars the sickness and its cause, the doctors then administered the herbal antidote. The fifth method of healing disease was by prayer. All ancient peoples believed in the compassionate intercession of the deity for the alleviation of human suffering. Paracelsus said that faith would cure all disease. Few persons, however, possess a sufficient degree of faith. The sixth method, which was prevention rather than cure, was regulation of the diet and daily habits of life. The individual, by avoiding the things which caused illness, remained well. The ancients believed that health was the normal state of man. Disease was the result of man's disregard of the dictates of nature. The seventh method was practical medicine, consisting chiefly of bleeding, purging, and similar lines of treatment. These procedures, while useful in moderation, were dangerous in excess. Many a useful citizen has died 25 or 50 years before his time as the result of drastic purging or of having all the blood drained out of his body. Paracelsus used all 7 methods of treatment, and even his worst enemies admitted that he accomplished results almost miraculous in character. Near his old estate in Hohenheim, the dew falls very heavily at certain seasons of the year, and Paracelsus discovered that by gathering the dew under certain configurations of the planets, he obtained a water possessing marvelous medicinal virtue, for it had absorbed the properties of the heavenly bodies. Hermetic herbalism and pharmacology. The herbs of the fields were sacred to the early pagans, who believed that the gods had made plants for the cure of human ills. When properly prepared and applied, each root and shrub could be used for the alleviation of suffering, or for the development of spiritual, mental, moral, or physical powers. In The Mistletoe and Its Philosophy, P. Davidson pays the following beautiful tribute to the plants. Books have been written on the language of flowers and herbs. The poet, from the earliest ages, has held the sweetest and most loving converse with them. Kings are even glad to obtain their essences at second hand to perfume themselves. But to the true physician, nature's high priest, they speak in a far higher and more exalted strain. There is not a plant or mineral which has disclosed the last of its properties to the scientists. How can they feel confident that for every one of the discovered properties there may not be many powers concealed in the inner nature of the plant? Well have flowers been called the stars of earth, and why should they not be beautiful? Have they not, from the time of their birth, smiled in the splendor of the sun by day, and slumbered under the brightness of the stars by night? Have they not come from another and more spiritual world to our earth, seeing that God made every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew? Many primitive peoples used herbal remedies with remarkable cures. The Chinese, Egyptians, and American Indians cured with herbs, diseases for which modern science knows no remedy. Dr. Nicholas Culpeper, whose useful life ended in 1654, was probably the most famous of herbalists. Finding that the medical systems of his day were unsatisfactory in the extreme, Culpeper turned his attention to the plants of the fields and discovered a medium of healing which gained for him national renown. In Dr. Culpeper's correlation of astrology and herbalism, each plant was under the jurisdiction of the planets or luminaries. He believed that disease was also controlled by celestial configurations. He summed up his system of treatment as follows. You may oppose diseases by herbs of the planet opposite to the planet that causes them, as diseases of Jupiter by herbs of Mercury, and the contrary, diseases of the luminaries by the herbs of Saturn, and the contrary, diseases of Mars by herbs of Venus, and the contrary. There is a way to cure diseases sometimes by sympathy, and so every planet cures his own disease. As the sun and moon by their herbs cure the eyes, Saturn the spleen, Jupiter the liver, Mars the gall, and diseases of choler, and Venus diseases in the instruments of generation. The complete herbal. Medieval European herbalists rediscovered only in part the ancient hermetic secrets of Egypt and Greece. These earlier nations evolved the fundamentals of nearly all modern arts and sciences. At that time, the methods used in healing were among the secrets imparted to the initiates of the mysteries. Unctions, collyria, philters, and potions were concocted to the accompaniment of strange rites. The effectiveness of these medicines is a matter of historical record. Incenses and perfumes were also much used. Nicholas Culpeper, from Culpeper's Semiotica Uranica. This famous physician, herbalist, and astrologer spent the greater part of his useful life ranging the hills and forests of England and cataloguing literally hundreds of medicinal herbs. Condemning the unnatural methods of contemporaneous medicos, Culpeper wrote, "This not being pleasing and less profitable tome, I consulted with my two brothers, Dr. Reason and Dr. Experience, and took a voyage to visit my mother, Nature, by whose advice, together with the help of Dr. Diligence, I at last obtained my desire, and, being warned by Mr. Honesty, a stranger in our days, to publish it to the world, I have done it." From the introduction to the 1835 edition of The Complete Herbal, Dr. Johnson said of Culpeper that he merited the gratitude of posterity. Barrett, in his Magus, describes the theory on which they worked as follows. For, because our spirit is the pure, subtle, lucid, airy, and unctuous vapor of the blood, nothing therefore is better adapted for collyriums than the like vapors which are more suitable to our spirit and substance. For then, by reason of their likeness, they do more stir up, attract, and transform the spirit. Poisons were thoroughly studied, and in some communities extracts of deadly herbs were administered to persons sentenced to death, as in the case of Socrates. The infamous Borgia of Italy developed the art of poisoning to its highest degree. Unnumbered brilliant men and women were quietly and efficiently disposed of by the almost superhuman knowledge of chemistry, which for many centuries was preserved in the Borgia family. Egyptian priests discovered herb extracts by means of which temporary clairvoyance could be induced, and they made use of these during the initiatory rituals of their mysteries. The drugs were sometimes mixed with the food given to candidates, and at other times were presented in the form of sacred potions, the nature of which was explained. Shortly after the drugs were administered to him, the neophyte was attacked by a spell of dizziness. He found himself floating through space, and while his physical body was absolutely insensible, being guarded by priests that no ill should befall it, the candidate passed through a number of weird experiences, which he was able to relate after regaining consciousness. In the light of present-day knowledge, it is difficult to appreciate an art so highly developed that by means of draughts, perfumes, and incenses, any mental attitude desired could be induced almost instantaneously, yet such an art actually existed among the priestcraft of the early pagan world. Concerning this subject, H.P. Blavatsky, the foremost occultist of the 19th century, has written, "Plants also have like mystical properties in a most wonderful degree, and the secrets of the herbs of dreams and enchantments are only lost to European science, and useless to say, too, are unknown to it, except in a few marked instances, such as opium and hashish, Yet the psychical effects of even these few upon the human system are regarded as evidences of a temporary mental disorder. The women of Thessaly and Epirus, the female hierophants of the rites of Sabazius, did not carry their secrets away with the downfall of their sanctuaries. They are still preserved, and those who are aware of the nature of soma know the properties of other plants as well. Isis unveiled. Herbal compounds were used to cause temporary clairvoyance in connection with the oracles, especially the one at Delphi. Words spoken while in these imposed trances were regarded as prophetic. Modern mediums, while under control as the result of partly self-imposed catalepsy, give messages somewhat similar to those of the ancient prophets, but in the majority of cases the results are far less accurate, for the soothsayers of today lack the knowledge of nature's hidden forces. The mysteries taught that during the higher degrees of initiation, the gods themselves took part in the instruction of the candidates, or at least were present, which was in itself a benediction. As the deities dwelt in the invisible worlds and came only in their spiritual bodies, it was impossible for the neophyte to cognize them without the assistance of drugs, which stimulated the clairvoyant center of his consciousness, probably the pineal gland. Many initiates in the ancient mysteries stated emphatically that they had conversed with the immortals and had beheld the gods. When the standards of the pagans became corrupted, a division took place in the mysteries. The band of truly enlightened ones separated themselves from the rest, and, preserving the most important of their secrets, vanished without leaving a trace. The rest slowly drifted, like rudderless ships, on the rocks of degeneracy and disintegration. Some of the less important of these secret formulae fell into the hands of the profane, who perverted them, as in the case of the Bacchanalia, during which drugs were mixed with wine and became the real cause of the orgies. In certain parts of the earth it was maintained that there were natural wells, springs, or fountains in which the water, because of the minerals through which it coursed, was tinctured with sacred properties. Temples were often built near these spots, and in some cases natural caves which chanced to be in the vicinity were sanctified to some deity. The aspirants to initiation and those who came to request prophetic dreams of the gods were prepared by a fast, more or less prolonged, after which they partook of meals expressly prepared, and also of mysterious drinks such as the water of Lethe and the water of Mnemosyne in the grotto of Trophonius, or of the Sicyon in the mysteries of the Eleusinia. Different drugs were easily mixed up with the meats or introduced into the drinks, according to the state of mind or body into which it was necessary to throw the recipient and the nature of the visions he was desirous of procuring. Salvertes, The Occult Sciences. The same author states that certain sects of early Christianity were accused of using drugs for the same general purposes as the pagans. The sect of the Assassins, or the Yazidis, as they are more generally known, demonstrated a rather interesting aspect of the drug problem. In the 11th century, this order, by capturing the fortress of Mount Alamant, established itself at Iraq. Hassan Sabah, the founder of the order, known as the Old Man of the Mountain, is suspected of having controlled his followers by the use of narcotics. Hassan made his followers believe that they were in paradise, where they would be forever if they implicitly obeyed him while they were alive. De Quincey, in his Confessions of an Opium Eater, describes the peculiar psychological effects produced by this product of the poppy, and the use of a similar drug may have given rise to the idea of paradise, which filled the minds of the Yazidis. The philosophers of all ages have taught that the visible universe was but a fractional part of the whole, and that by analogy, the physical body of man is in reality the least important part of his composite constitution. Most of the medical systems of today almost entirely ignore the superphysical man. They pay but scant attention to causes and concentrate their efforts on ameliorating effects. Paracelsus, noting the same proclivity on the part of physicians during his day, aptly remarked, "There is a great difference between the power that removes the invisible causes of disease, and which is magic, and that which causes merely external effects to disappear, and which is psychic, sorcery, and quackery." Translated by Franz Hartmann. Disease is unnatural, and is evidence that there is a maladjustment within or between organs or tissues. Permanent health cannot be regained until harmony is restored. The outstanding virtue of Hermetic medicine was its recognition of spiritual and psychophysical derangements as being largely responsible for the condition which is called physical disease. Suggestive therapy was used with marked success by the priest-physicians of the ancient world. Among the American Indians, the shamans, or medicine men, dispelled sickness with the aid of mysterious dances, invocations, and charms. The fact that, in spite of their ignorance of modern methods of medical treatment, these sorcerers effected innumerable cures is well worthy of consideration. The magic rituals used by the Egyptian priests for the curing of disease were based upon a highly developed comprehension of the complex workings of the human mind and its reactions upon the physical constitution. The Egyptian and Brahmin worlds undoubtedly understood the fundamental principle of vibrotherapeutics. By means of chants and mantras, which emphasized certain vowel and consonant sounds, they set up vibratory reactions which dispelled congestions and assisted nature in reconstructing broken members and depleted organisms. They also applied their knowledge of the laws governing vibration to the spiritual constitution of man. By their intonings, they stimulated latent centers of consciousness and thereby vastly increased the sensitiveness of the subjective nature. In the Book of Coming Forth by Day, many of the Egyptian secrets have been preserved to this generation. While this ancient scroll has been well translated, only a few understand the secret significance of its magical passages. Oriental races have a keen realization of the dynamics of sound. They know that every spoken word has tremendous power, and that by certain arrangements of words, they can create vortices of force in the invisible universe about them, and thereby profoundly influence physical substance. The sacred word, by which the world was established, the lost word, which Masonry is still seeking, and the threefold divine name symbolized by Om, the creative tone of the Hindus, are all indicative of the veneration accorded to the principle of sound. The so-called new discoveries of modern science are often only rediscoveries of secrets well known to the priests and philosophers of ancient pagandom. Man's inhumanity to man has resulted in the loss of records and formula which, had they been preserved, would have solved many of the greatest problems of this civilization. With sword and firebrand, races obliterate the records of their predecessors and then inevitably meet with an untimely fate for need of the very wisdom they have destroyed. Chemical syllables, from de Mont-Snyder's Metamorphosis Planetarum. De Mont-Snyder's declares that each of the above characters forms one syllable of a word having 7 syllables, the word itself representing the materia prima, or first substance of the universe. As all substance is composed of 7 powers combined according to certain cosmic laws, a great mystery is concealed within the 7-fold constitution of man and the universe. Of the above 7 characters, de Mont-Snyder writes, "Whoever wants to know the true name and character of the materia prima shall know that out of the combination of the above figures, syllables are produced, and out of these the verbum significativum." The Kabbalah, the secret doctrine of Israel. Albert Pike, quoting from Transcendental Magic, thus sums up the importance of Kabbalism as a key to Masonic esotericism. One is filled with admiration on penetrating into the sanctuary of the Kabbalah, at seeing a doctrine so logical, so simple, and at the same time so absolute. The necessary union of ideas and signs, the consecration of the most fundamental realities by the primitive characters, the trinity of words, letters, and numbers, a philosophy simple as the alphabet, profound and infinite as the word, theorems more complete and luminous than those of Pythagoras, a theology summed up by counting on one's fingers, an infinite which can be held in the hollow of an infant's hand, 10 ciphers and 22 letters, a triangle, a square, and a circle. These are all the elements of the Kabbalah. These are the elementary principles of the written word, reflection of that spoken word that created the world. Morals and dogma. Hebrew theology was divided into 3 distinct parts. The first was the law, the second was the soul of the law, and the third was the soul of the law. The law was taught to all the children of Israel. The Mishnah, or the soul of the law, was revealed to the rabbins and teachers, but the Kabbalah, the soul of the law, was cunningly concealed, and only the highest initiates among the Jews were instructed in its secret principles. According to certain Jewish mystics, Moses ascended Mount Sinai 3 times, remaining in the presence of God 40 days each time. During the first 40 days, the tables of the written law were delivered to the prophet. During the second 40 days, he received the soul of the law, and during the last 40 days, God instructed him in the mysteries of the Kabbalah, the soul of the law. Moses concealed in the first 4 books of the Pentateuch the secret instructions that God had given him, and for centuries, students of Kabbalism have sought therein the secret doctrine of Israel. As the spiritual nature of man is concealed in his physical body, so the unwritten law, the Mishnah, and the Kabbalah is concealed within the written teachings of the Mosaic Code. Kabbalah means the secret or hidden tradition, the unwritten law, and according to an early rabbi, it was delivered to man in order that, through the aid of its abstruse principles, he might learn to understand the mystery of both the universe about him and the universe within him. The origin of Kabbalism is a legitimate subject for controversy. Early initiates of the Kabbalistic mysteries believed that its principles were first taught by God to a school of his angels before the fall of man. The angels later communicated the secrets to Adam so that, through the knowledge gained from an understanding of its principles, fallen humanity might regain its lost estate. The angel, Raziel, was dispatched from heaven to instruct Adam in the mysteries of the Kabbalah. Different angels were employed to initiate the succeeding patriarchs in this difficult science. Tophiel was the teacher of Shem, Raphael of Isaac, Metatron of Moses, and Michael of David. See Faiths of the World. Christian D. Ginsburg has written, "From Adam it passed over to Noah and then to Abraham, the friend of God who emigrated with it to Egypt, where the patriarch allowed a portion of this mysterious doctrine to ooze out. It was in this way that the Egyptians obtained some knowledge of it, and the other Eastern nations could introduce it into their philosophical systems. Moses, who was learned in all the wisdom of Egypt, was first initiated into it in the land of his birth, but became most proficient in it during his wanderings in the wilderness, when he not only devoted to it the leisure hours of the whole 40 years, but received lessons in it from one of the angels. Moses also initiated the 70 elders into the secrets of this doctrine, and they again transmitted them from hand to hand. Of all who formed the unbroken line of tradition, David and Solomon were most initiated into the Kabbalah. See the Kabbalah. According to Eliphas Levi, the 3 greatest books of Kabbalism are the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, the Sefer HaZohar, the Book of Splendor, and the Apocalypse, the Book of Revelation. The dates of the writing of these books are by no means thoroughly established. Kabbalists declare that the Sefer Yetzirah was written by Abraham. Although it is by far the oldest of the Kabbalistic books, it was probably from the pen of the Rabbi Akiba, A.D. 120. The Sefer HaZohar presumably was written by Simeon ben Yochai, a disciple of Akiba. Rabbi Simeon was sentenced to death about A.D. 161 by Lucius Verus, co-regent of the Emperor Mark Aurelius Antoninus. He escaped with his son and, hiding in a cave, transcribed the manuscript of the Zohar with the assistance of Elias, who appeared to them at intervals. Simeon was 12 years in the cave, during which time he evolved the complicated symbolism of the greater face and the lesser face. While discoursing with disciples, Rabbi Simeon expired, and the lamp of Israel was extinguished. His death and burial were accompanied by many supernatural phenomena. The legend goes on to relate that the secret doctrines of Kabbalism had been in existence since the beginning of the world, but that Rabbi Simeon was the first man permitted to reduce them to writing. 1,200 years later, the books which he had compiled were discovered and published for the benefit of humanity by Moses de Leon. The probability is that Moses de Leon himself compiled the Zohar about A.D. 1305, drawing his material from the unwritten secrets of earlier Jewish mystics. The Apocalypse, accredited to John the Divine, is also of uncertain date, and the identity of its author has never been satisfactorily proved. Because of its brevity and because it is the key to Kabbalistic thought, the Sefer Yetzirah is reproduced in full in this chapter, So far as is known, the Sefer HaZohar has never been completely translated into English, but it can be obtained in French. S. L. McGregor Mathers translated 3 books of the Zohar into English. The Zohar contains a vast number of philosophical tenets, and a paraphrase of its salient points is embodied in this work. The 72 Names of God, from Kircher's Oedipus Aegypticus. This rare cut shows the name of God in 72 languages, inscribed upon the petals of a symbolic sunflower. Above the circle are the 72 powers of God according to the Hebrew Kabbalah. Below 2 trees, that on the left bearing the symbols of the planets, and that on the right the signs of the zodiac and the names of the tribes of Israel. The esoteric doctrines of the Kabbalah are in alignment with the secret teachings of all the schools of philosophy, but the method by which its secrets are revealed to the wise and concealed from the ignorant is most unusual. As the religious world interprets its scriptures with 20th century educational facilities, it becomes ever more apparent that the sacred books were not historical documents, but that the kings, sages, prophets, and saviors whom Bible students have revered for ages as once existing personalities are in reality only personified attributes of man himself. Few realize the influence exerted by Kabbalism over medieval thought, both Christian and Jewish. It taught that there existed within these sacred writings a hidden doctrine, which was the key to those writings. This is symbolized by the crossed keys upon the papal crest. Scores of learned minds began to search for those arcane truths by which the race should be redeemed, and that their labor was not without its reward, their subsequent writings have demonstrated. The theories of Kabbalism are inextricably interwoven with the tenets of alchemy, Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, and Freemasonry. The words Kabbalism and Hermeticism are now considered as synonymous terms covering all the arcana and esotericism of antiquity. The simple Kabbalism of the first centuries of the Christian era gradually evolved into an elaborate theological system, which became so involved that it was next to impossible to comprehend its dogma. The Kabbalists divided the uses of their sacred science into 5 sections. The natural Kabbalah was used solely to assist the investigator in his study of nature's mysteries. The analogical Kabbalah was formulated to exhibit the relationship which exists between all things in nature, and it revealed to the wise that all creatures and substances were one in essence, and that man, the little universe, was a replica in miniature of God, the great universe. The contemplative Kabbalah was evolved for the purpose of revealing, through the higher intellectual faculties, the mysteries of the celestial spheres. By its aid, the abstract reasoning faculties cognized the measureless planes of infinity and learned to know the creatures existing within them. The astrological Kabbalah instructed those who studied its lore in the power, magnitude, and actual substance of the sidereal bodies, and also revealed the mystical constitution of the planet itself. The 5th, or magical Kabbalah, was studied by such as desired to gain control over the demons and subhuman intelligences of the invisible worlds. It was also highly valued as a method of healing the sick by talismans, amulets, charms, and invocations. The Sefer Yetzirah, according to Adolf Frank, differs from other sacred books in that it does not explain the world and the phenomena of which it is the stage by leaning on the idea of God or by setting itself up as the interpreter of the supreme will. This ancient work rather reveals God by estimating his manifold handiwork. In preparing the Sefer Yetzirah for the consideration of the reader, 5 separate English translations have been compared. The resulting form, while it embodies the salient features of each, is not a direct translation from any one Hebrew or Latin text. Although the purpose was to convey the spirit rather than the letter of the ancient document, there are no wide deviations from the original rendition. So far as known, the first translation of the Sefer Yetzirah into English was made by the Reverend Dr. Isidore Kalish in 1877. See Arthur Edward Waite. In this translation, the Hebrew text accompanies the English words. The work of Dr. Kalish has been used as the foundation of the following interpretation, but material from the other authorities has been incorporated, and many passages have been rewritten to simplify the general theme. At hand also was a manuscript copy in English of the Book of the Kabbalistic Art by Dr. John Pistor. The document is undated, but judging from the general type of the writing, A copy was made during the 18th century. The third volume, used as a reference, was the Sefer Yetzirah by the late Wynne Westcott, Magus of the Rosicrucian Society of England. The fourth was the Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Creation, according to the translation in the sacred books and early literature of the East, edited by Professor Charles F. Horn. The fifth was a recent publication, the Book of Formation by Knut Stenring, containing an introduction by Arthur Edward Waite. At hand also were 4 other copies, 2 German, 1 Hebrew, and 1 Latin. Certain portions of the Sefer Yetzirah are considered older and more authentic than the rest, but the controversy regarding them is involved and non-productive, that it is useless to add further comment. The doubtful passages are therefore included in the document at the points where they would naturally fall. The Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation. Chapter 1. 1. Yah, the Lord of hosts, the living Elohim, King of the universe, omnipotent, the merciful and gracious God, supreme and extolled, dweller in the height whose habitation is eternity, who is sublime and most holy, engraved his name and ordained, formed, and created the universe in 32 mysterious paths or stages of wisdom or science, by 3 Sephirim, namely numbers, letters, and sounds, which are in him one and the same. The Tetragrammaton, by arranging the 4 letters of the great name, IHVH, in the form of the Pythagorean tetractys, the 72 powers of the great name of God are manifested. The key to the problem is as follows. 2. 10 Sephiroth, 10 properties from the Ineffable One, and 22 letters are the foundation of all things. Of these 22 letters, 3 are called mothers, 7 double, and 12 simple. 3. The 10 numbers, Sephiroth, out of nothing, are analogous to the 10 fingers and the 10 toes, 5 over against 5. In the center between them is the covenant with the only one God. In the spiritual world, it is the covenant of the voice, the word, and in the corporeal world, the circumcision of the flesh, the right of Abraham. 4. 10 are the numbers of the Sephiroth, out of nothing, 10, not 9, 10, not 11. Comprehend this great wisdom, understand this knowledge, and be wise. Inquire into the mystery and ponder it. Examine all things by means of the 10 Sephiroth. Restore the Word to its Creator, and lead the Creator back to his throne again. He is the only formator, and beside him there is no other. His attributes are 10, and are without limit. 5. The 10 ineffable Sephiroth have 10 infinitudes, which are as follows: the infinite beginning and the infinite end, the infinite good and the infinite evil, the infinite height and the infinite depth, the infinite east and the infinite west, the infinite north and the infinite south. And over them is the Lord superlatively one, the faithful King. He rules over all in all, from his holy habitation, for ages of ages. 6. The appearance of the 10 spheres, or Sephiroth, out of nothing, is as a flash of lightning or a sparking flame, and they are without beginning or end. The word of God is in them when they go forth and when they return. They run by his order like a whirlwind and prostrate themselves before his throne. 7. The 10 Sephiroth have their end linked to their beginning, and their beginning linked to their end, conjoined as the flame is wedded to the live coal, for the Lord is superlatively one, and to him there is no second. Before one, what can you count? 8. Concerning the number 10 of the spheres of existence, or Sephiroth, out of nothing, seal up your lips and guard your heart as you consider them, and if your mouth opens for utterance and your heart turns towards thought, control them, returning to silence. So it is written, and the living creatures ran and returned. Ezekiel. And on this wise was the covenant made with us. 9. These are the 10 emanations of number out of nothing. First, the Spirit of the living Elohim, blessed and more than blessed be the living Elohim of ages. His voice, his spirit, and his word are the Holy Spirit. Second, he produced air from the Spirit and in the air. he formed and established 22 sounds, the letters. 3 of them were fundamental, or mothers, 7 were double, and 12 were simple, or single, but the spirit is the first one, and above all. Third, primordial water he extracted from the air. He formed therein 22 letters and established them out of mud and loam, making them like a border, putting them up like a wall, and surrounding them as with a rampart. He poured snow upon them, and it became earth. As it reads, He said to the snow, Be thou earth. Job. Fourth, fire, or ether. He drew forth from the water. He engraved and established by it the throne of glory. He fashioned the Sephirim, the Ophanim, and the holy living creatures, or cherubim, as his ministering angels. And with of these 3 he formed his habitation, as it reads, Who made his angels spirits, his ministers a flaming fire. Psalms. Fifth, he selected 3 consonants, I, H, V, from the simple ones, a secret belonging to the 3 mothers, or first elements, A, M, Sh, air, water, fire, or ether. He sealed them with his spirit and fashioned them into a great name, and with this sealed the universe in 6 directions. He turned towards the above, and sealed the height with IHV. Sixth, he turned towards the below, and sealed the depth with HIV. Seventh, he turned forward, and sealed the east with VIH. Eighth, he turned backward, and sealed the west with VHI. Ninth, he turned to the right, and sealed the south with IVH. 10th, he turned to the left and sealed the north with HVI. Note: this arrangement of the letters of the great name is according to the Reverend Dr. Isidore Kalish. 10. These are the 10 ineffable existences out of nothing. From the Spirit of the living God emanated air, from the air, water, from the water, fire, or ether, from the fire, the height and the depth, the east and the west, the north and the south. Chapter 2. 1. There are 22 basic sounds and letters. 3 are the first elements, water, air, fire, fundamentals or mothers. 7 are double letters, and 12 are simple letters. The 3 fundamental letters have as their basis the balance. At one end of the scale are the virtues, and at the other the vices, placed in equilibrium by the tongue. Of the fundamental letters, M is mute like the water, Sh is hissing like fire, A reconciling breath between them. 2. The 22 basic letters having been designed, appointed, and established by God, he combined, weighed, and exchanged them, each with the others, and formed by them all beings which are in existence, and all which will be formed in time to come. 3. He established 22 basic letters, formed by the voice and impressed upon the air by the breath. He set them to be audibly uttered in 5 different parts of the human mouth, namely gutturals, palatals, linguals, dentals, and labials. The Hebrew letters according to the Sefer Yetzirah. In the central triangle are the 3 mother letters, from which come forth the 7 double letters, the planets and the heavens. Surrounding the black star are the signs of the zodiac symbolized by the 12 simple letters. In the midst of this star is the invisible throne of the most ancient of the ancients, the supreme, definitionless creator. 4. He fixed the 22 basic letters in a ring, or sphere, like a wall with 231 gates, and turned the sphere forward and backward. Turned forward, the sphere signified good; when reversed, evil. 3 letters may serve for an illustration. There is nothing better than ONG, pleasure or joy, and nothing worse than NGO, plague or sorrow. 5. How was it all accomplished? He combined, weighed, and changed the A with all the other letters in succession, and all the others again with A, and all again with B, and so with the whole series of letters. Hence it follows that there are 231 formations, or gates, through which the powers of the letters go forth. Every creature and every language proceeded from one name and the combinations of its letters. 6. He created a reality out of nothing. He called the non-entity into existence and hewed colossal pillars from intangible air. This has been shown by the example of combining the letter A with all the other letters, and all the other letters with A. By speaking, he created every creature and every word by the power of one name. As an illustration, consider the 22 elementary substances from the primitive substance of A. The production of every creature from the 22 letters is proof that they are in reality the 22 parts of one living body. Chapter 3. 1. The first three elements, the mother letters, resemble a balance, in one scale virtue and in the other vice, placed in equilibrium by the tongue. 2. The three mothers enclose a great, wonderful, and unknown mystery and are sealed by 6 wings, or elementary circles, namely air, water, fire, each divided into an active and a passive power. The mothers gave birth to the fathers, or the progenitors, and these gave birth to the generations. 3. God appointed and established 3 mothers, combined, weighed, and exchanged them, forming by them 3 mothers, in the universe, in the year, and in man, male and female. 4. The 3 mothers in the universe are air, water, and fire. Heaven was created from the elementary fire, or ether, the earth comprising sea and land from the elementary water, and the atmospheric air from the elementary air, or spirit, which establishes the balance among them. Thus were all things produced. 5. The 3 mothers produce in the year heat, coldness, and the temperate state. Heat was created from fire, coldness from water, and the temperate state from air, which equilibrates them. 6. The 3 mothers produce in man, male and female, breast, abdomen, and head. The head was formed from the fire, the abdomen from the water, and the breast, or thorax, from the air, which places them in equilibrium. 7. God let the letter A predominate in primordial air, crowned it, combined it with the other 2, and sealed the air in the universe, the temperate state in the year, and the breast in man, male and female. 8. He let the letter M predominate in primordial water, crowned it, combined it with the other 2, and sealed the earth in the universe, including land and sea, coldness in the year, and the abdomen in man, male and female. 9. He let the letter Sh predominate in primordial fire, crowned it, combined it with the other 2, and sealed heaven in the universe, heat in the year, and the head of man, male and female. Chapter 4. 1. The 7 double letters, B, G, D, K, P, R, the, have a duplicity of pronunciation, 2 voices, aspirated and unaspirated. Namely, they serve as a model of softness and hardness, strength and weakness. 2. The 7 double letters symbolize wisdom, riches, fertility, life, power, peace, and grace. 3. The 7 double letters also signify the antithesis to which human life is exposed. The opposite of wisdom is foolishness, of riches, poverty, of fertility, sterility, of life, death, of power, servitude, of peace, war, and of beauty, deformity. 4. The 7 double letters point out the 6 dimensions, height, depth, east and west, north and south, and the holy temple in the center, which sustains them all. 5. The double letters are 7 and not 6. They are 7 and not 8. Reflect upon this fact, search into it, and reveal its hidden mystery and place the Creator on his throne again. 6. The 7 double letters, having been designed, established, purified, weighed, and exchanged by God, he formed of them 7 planets in the universe, 7 days in the year, and 7 gateways of the senses in man, male and female. From these 7 he also produced 7 heavens, 7 earths, and 7 Sabbaths. Therefore he loved 7 more than any other number beneath his throne. 7. The 7 planets in the universe are Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. The 7 days in the year are the 7 days of the week. Possibly the 7 creative days are meant. The 7 gateways in man, male and female, are 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and the mouth. 8. Note: Knut Stenring differs from other authorities in his arrangement of the planets and days of the week in the following 7 stanzas. Kircher has still a different order. Reverend Dr. Isidore Kalish, Wynne Westcott, and the Sacred Books and Early Literature of the East adopt the following arrangement. First, he caused the letter B to predominate in wisdom, crowned it, combined each with the others, and formed by them the moon in the universe, the first day in the year, and the right eye in man, male and female. Second, he caused the letter G to predominate in riches, crowned it, combined it with the others, and formed by them Mars in the universe, the second day in the year, and the right ear in man, male and female. Third, he caused the letter D to predominate in fertility, crowned it, combined each with the others, and formed by them the sun in the universe, the third day in the year, and the right nostril in man, male and female. Fourth, he caused the letter K to predominate in life, crowned it, combined each with the others, and formed by them Venus in the universe, the fourth day in the year, and the left eye in man, male and female. Fifth, he caused the letter P to predominate in power, crowned it, combined each with the others, and formed by them Mercury in the universe, the fifth day in the year, and the left ear in man, male and female. Sixth, he caused the letter R to predominate in peace, crowned it, combined each with the others, and formed by them Saturn in the universe, the sixth day in the year, and the left nostril in man, male and female. Seventh, he caused the letter Th to predominate in grace, crowned it, combined each with the others, and formed by them Jupiter in the universe, the seventh day in the year, and the mouth of man, male and female. 9. With the 7 double letters, he also designed 7 earths, 7 heavens, 7 continents, 7 seas, 7 rivers, 7 deserts, 7 days, 7 weeks, from Passover to Pentecost, and in the midst of them his holy palace. There is a cycle of 7 years, and the 7th is the release year, and after 7 release years is the Jubilee. For this reason God loves the number 7 more than any other thing under the heavens. 10. In this manner God joined the 7 double letters together. 2 stones build 2 houses, 3 stones build 6 houses, 4 stones build 24 houses, 5 stones build 120 houses, 6 stones build 720 houses, and 7 stones build 5,040 houses. Make a beginning according to this arrangement, and reckon further that the mouth can express, or the ear can hear. Chapter 5. The 12 simple letters H, V, Z, Ch, T, I, L, N, S, O, Z, Q symbolize the 12 fundamental properties: speech, thought, movement, sight, hearing, work, coition, smell, sleep, anger, taste, or swallowing, and mirth. 2. The simple letters correspond to 12 directions: east height, northeast, east depth, south height, southeast, south depth, west height, southwest, west depth, north height, northwest, north depth. They diverge to all eternity and are the arms of the universe. 3. The simple letters having been designed, established, weighed, and exchanged by God, he produced by them 12 zodiacal signs in the universe, 12 months in the year, and 12 chief organs in the human body, male and female. 4. The signs of the zodiac are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. The months of the year are Nisan, Liar, Sivan, Tammuz, Ab, Elul, Tisri, Markeshvan, Kislev, Tebet, Sebat, and Adar. The organs of the human body are 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 kidneys, gall, small intestine, liver, esophagus, stomach, and spleen. 5. Note: in the following 12 stanzas, Knut Stenring again differs, this time as to the arrangement of properties. First, God caused the letter H to predominate in speech, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Aries, the ram in the universe, the month Nisan in the year, and the right foot of the human body, male and female. Second, he caused the letter V to predominate in thought, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Taurus, the bull, in the universe, the month Liar in the year, and the right kidney of the human body, male and female. Third, he caused the letter Z to predominate in movement, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Gemini, the twins, in the universe, the month Sivan in the year, and the left foot of the human body, male and female. Fourth, he caused the letter Ch to predominate in sight, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Cancer, the crab, in the universe, the month Tammuz in the year, and the right hand of the human body, male and female. Fifth, he caused the letter T to predominate in hearing, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Leo, the lion, in the universe, the month Eb in the year, and the left kidney of the human body, male and female. Sixth, he caused the letter I to predominate in work, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Virgo, the virgin, in the universe, the month Elul in the year, and the left hand of the human body, male and female. Seventh, he caused the letter L to predominate in coition, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Libra, the balance, in the universe, the month Tisri in the year, and the gall of the human body, male and female. Eighth, he caused the letter N to predominate in smell, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Scorpio, the scorpion, in the universe, the month Markeshvan in the year, and the small intestine in the human body, male and female. Ninth, he caused the letter S to predominate in sleep, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Sagittarius, the archer, in the universe, the month Kislev in the year, and the stomach in the human body, male and female. 10th, he caused the letter O to predominate in anger, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Capricorn, the goat, in the universe, the month Tebet in the year, and the liver in the human body, male and female. 11th, he caused the letter Z to predominate in taste or swallowing, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Aquarius, the water-bearer, in the universe, the month Sabat in the year, and the esophagus in the human body, male and female. 12th, he caused the letter Q to predominate in mirth, crowned it, combined it with the others, and fashioned by them Pisces, the fishes, in the universe, the month Adar in the year, and the spleen in the human body, male and female. 6. He made them as a conflict. He arranged them as provinces and drew them up like a wall. He armed them and set one against another, as in warfare. The Elohim did likewise in the other spheres. Chapter 6. 1. There are three mothers or first elements, A, M, Sh, from which emanated three fathers or progenitors, primordial or spiritual air, water, and fire, from which issued the 7 planets or heavens with their angels and the 12 oblique points, zodiac. 2. To prove this, there are 3 faithful witnesses, the universe, the year, and man. There are the 12, the balance, and the 7. Above is the dragon, below is the world, and lastly the heart of man, and in the midst is God who regulates them all. 3. The first elements are air, water, and fire. The fire is above, the water is below, and a breath of air establishes balance between them. The token is, the fire carries the water. The letter M is mute. Sh is hissing like fire. There is A among them, a breath of air which reconciles the two. 4. The dragon, Tali, is in the universe like a king upon his throne. The celestial sphere is in the year like a king in his empire, and the heart is in the body of men like a king in warfare. 5. God also set the opposites against each other, the good against the evil, and the evil against the good. Good proceeds from good, evil from evil. The good purifies the bad the good. The good is reserved for the good, and the evil for the wicked. 6. There are 3 of which each stands by itself, One is in the affirmative, filled with good. One is in the negative, filled with evil, and the third equilibrates them. 7. There are 7 divided 3 against 3, and 1 in the midst of them. Balance. 12 stand in warfare. 3 produce love and 3 hatred. 3 are life-givers, and 3 are destroyers. 8. The 3 that cause love are the heart and the 2 ears. The 3 that produce hatred are the liver, the gall, and the tongues. The 3 life-givers are the 2 nostrils and the spleen, and the 3 destroyers are the mouth and the 2 lower openings of the body. Over all these rules God, the faithful King, from his holy habitation in all eternity. God is 1 above 3, 3 are above 7, 7 are above 12, yet all are linked together. 9. There are 22 letters by which the I Am, or Yah, the Lord of hosts, almighty and eternal, designed and created by 3 Sephirim, numbers, letters, and sounds, his universe, and formed by them all creatures and all those things that are yet to come. 10. When the patriarch Abraham had comprehended the great truths, meditated upon them, and understood them perfectly, the Lord of the universe, the Tetragrammaton, appeared to him, called him his friend, kissed him upon the head, and made with him a covenant. First, the covenant was between the 10 fingers of his hands, which is the covenant of the tongue, spiritual. Second, the covenant was between the 10 toes of his feet, which is the covenant of circumcision, material. And God said of him, before Abraham bound the spirit of the 22 letters, the Torah, upon his tongue, and God disclosed to him their secrets. God permitted the letters to be immersed in water. He burned them in the fire, and imprinted them upon the winds. He distributed them among the 7 planets, and gave them to the 12 zodiacal signs. Fundamentals of Kabbalistic Cosmogony. The Kabbalists conceive of the supreme deity as an incomprehensible principle to be discovered only through the process of eliminating, in order, all its cognizable attributes. That which remains, when every knowable thing has been removed, is Ein Sof, the eternal state of being. Although indefinable, the Absolute permeates all space. Abstract to the degree of inconceivability, Ein Sof is the unconditioned state of all things. Substances, essences, and intelligences are manifested out of the inscrutability of Ein Sof, but the Absolute Self is without substance, essence, or intelligence. Ein Sof may be likened to a great field of rich earth, out of which rises a myriad of plants, each different in color, formation, and fragrance, yet each with its roots in the same dark loam, which, however, is unlike any of the forms nurtured by it. The plants are universes, gods, and man, all nourished by Ein Sof, and all with their source in one definitionless essence, all with their spirits, souls, and bodies, fashioned from this essence, and doomed, like the plant, to return to the black ground, Ein Sof, the only immortal, whence they came. Ein Sof was referred to by the Kabbalists as the most ancient of all the ancients. It was always considered as sexless. Its symbol was a closed eye. While it may be truly said of Ein Sof that to define it is to defile it, the rabbis postulated certain theories regarding the manner in which Ein Sof projected creations out of itself, and they also assigned to this absolute not-being certain symbols as being descriptive, in part at least, of its powers. The nature of Ein Sof they symbolize by a circle, itself emblematic of eternity. This hypothetical circle encloses a dimensionless area of incomprehensible life, and the circular boundary of this life is abstract and measureless infinity. According to this concept, God is not only a center, but also area. Centralization is the first step towards limitation. Therefore, centers which form in the substances of Ein Sof are finite because they are predestined to dissolution back into the cause of themselves, while Ein Sof itself is infinite because it is the ultimate condition of all things. The circular shape given to Ein Sof signifies that space is hypothetically enclosed within a great crystal-like globe, outside of which there is nothing, not even a vacuum. Within this globe, symbolic of Ein Sof, creation and dissolution take place. Every element and principle that will ever be used in the eternities of cosmic birth, growth, and decay is within the transparent substances of this intangible sphere. It is the cosmic egg which is not broken till the great day, be with us, which is the end of the cycle of necessity, when all things return to their ultimate cause. In the process of creation, the diffused life of Ein Sof retires from the circumference to the center of the circle and establishes a point which is the first manifesting one, the primitive limitation of the all-pervading O. When the divine essence thus retires from the circular boundary to the center, it leaves behind the abyss, or, as the Kabbalists term it, the great privation. Thus, in Ein Sof is established a twofold condition where previously had existed but one. The first condition is the central point, the primitive objectified radiance of the eternal subjectified life. About this radiance is the darkness caused by the deprivation of the life, which is drawn to the center to create the first point or universal germ. The universal Ein Sof, therefore, no longer shines through space, but rather upon space from an established first point. Isaac Meyer describes this process as follows. The Ein Sof at first was filling all, and then made an absolute concentration into itself, which produced the abyss, deep, or space, the Avir Kadman, or primitive air, the Azoth. But this is not considered in the Kabbalah as a perfect void or vacuum, a perfectly empty space, but is thought of as the waters or crystalline chaotic sea, in which was a certain degree of light inferior to that by which all the created worlds and hierarchies were made. See the Kabbalah. In the secret teachings of the Kabbalah, it is taught that man's body is enveloped in an ovoid of bubble-like iridescence, which is called the auric egg. This is the causal sphere of man. It bears the same relationship to man's physical body that the globe of Ein Sof bears to its created universes. In fact, this auric egg is the Ein Sof sphere of the entity called man. In reality, therefore, the supreme consciousness of man is in this aura, which extends in all directions and completely encircles his lower bodies. As the consciousness in the cosmic egg is withdrawn into a central point, which is then called God, the Supreme One, so the consciousness in the auric egg of man is concentrated, thereby causing the establishment of a point of consciousness called the ego. As the universes in nature are formed from powers latent in the cosmic egg, so everything used by man in all his incarnations throughout the kingdoms of nature is drawn from the latent powers within his auric egg. Man never passes from this egg. It remains even after death. His births, deaths, and rebirths all take place within it, and it cannot be broken until the lesser day, be with us, when mankind, like the universe, is liberated from the wheel of necessity. The Kabbalistic System of Worlds. On the accompanying circular chart, the concentric rings represent diagrammatically the 40 rates of vibration, called by the Kabbalists spheres, which emanate from Ein Sof. The circle X1 is the outer boundary of space. It circumscribes the area of Ein Sof. The nature of Ein Sof itself is divided into 3 parts, represented by the spaces respectively between X1 and X2, X2 and X3, X3 and A1. Thus, X1 to X2, Ein, the vacuum of pure spirit. X2 to X3, Ein Sof, the limitless and boundless. X3 to A1, Ein Sof Or, the limitless light. It should be borne in mind that in the beginning the supreme substance, Ein, alone permeated the area of the circle. The inner rings had not yet come into manifestation. As the divine essence concentrated itself, the rings X2 and X3 became apprehensible, for Ein Sof is a limitation of Ein, and Ein Sof Or light, is a still greater limitation. Thus the nature of the Supreme One is considered to be threefold, and from this threefold nature the powers and elements of creation itself were reflected into the abyss left by the motion of Ein Sof towards the center of itself. The continual motion of Ein Sof towards the center of itself resulted in the establishment of the dot in the circle. The dot was called God, as being the supreme individualization of the universal essence. Concerning this, the Zohar says, "When the concealed of the concealed wished to reveal himself, he first made a single point. The infinite was entirely unknown and diffused no light before this luminous point violently broke through into vision." The Hebrew Triad. The Kabbalists used the letter Shin to signify the trinity of the first three Sephiroth. The central circle, slightly above the other two, is the first Sephirah, Kether, the white head, the crown. The other two circles represent Kokma, the father, and Binah, the mother. From the union of the Divine Father and the Divine Mother are produced the worlds and the generations of living things. The three flame-like points of the letter Shin have long been used to conceal this creative triad of the Kabbalists. The name of this point is I Am, called by the Hebrews Iheyeh. The Kabbalists gave many names to this dot. On this subject, Christian D. Ginsburg writes, in substance, the dot is called the first crown because it occupies the highest position. It is called the aged because it is the first emanation. It is called the primordial or smooth point. It is called the white head, the long face, macroprosophus, the inscrutable height, because it controls and governs all the other emanations. When the white shining point had appeared, it was called Kether, which means the crown, and out of it radiated 9 great globes which arranged themselves in the form of a tree. These 9 together with the first crown constituted the first system of Sephiroth. These 10 were the first limitation of 10 abstract points within the nature of Ein Sof itself. The power of Ein Sof did not descend into these globes, but rather was reflected upon them as the light of the sun is reflected upon the earth and planets. These 10 globes were called the shining sapphires, and it is believed by many rabbins that the word sapphire is the basis of the word Sephirah, the singular form of Sephiroth. The great area which had been privated by the withdrawal of Ein Sof into the central point, Kether, was now filled by 4 concentric globes called worlds or spheres, and the light of the 10 Sephiroth was reflected down through each of these in turn. This resulted in the establishment of 4 symbolical trees, each hearing the reflections of the 10 Sephirothic globes. The 40 spheres of creation out of Ein Sof are divided into 4 great world chains, as follows. A1 to A10, Atzuluth, the boundless world of divine names. B1 to B10, Briah, the archangelic world of creations. C1 to C10, Yetzirah, the hierarchical world of formations. D1 to D10, Asaya, the elemental world of substances. The Kabbalistic scheme of the 4 worlds. In the above chart, the dark line between X3 and A1 constitutes the boundary of the original dot, while the concentric circles within this heavier line symbolize the emanations and the worlds which came forth from the dot. As this dot is contained within the outer rings, X1, X2, and X3, and represents the first establishment of an individualized existence, so the lower universe is symbolized by the 40 concentric circles within the dot, represents the lower creation evolved out of and yet contained within the nature of the first crown, which may be called God, within whom the divine powers, the celestial beings, the sidereal worlds, and man live and move and have their being. It is highly important that all the rings within A1 be considered as being enclosed by the primitive dot, which is itself encircled by the great ring X1, or the auric egg of Ein Sof. Each of these worlds has 10 powers or spheres, a parent globe and 9 others, which conic out of it as emanations, each globe born out of the one preceding. On the plane of Atzuluth, A1 to A10, the highest and most divine of all the created worlds, the unmanifested Ein Sof established his first point or dot in the divine sea, the 3 spheres of X. This dot, A1, contains all creation within it, but in this first divine and uncontaminated state, the dot, or first manifested. God was not considered as a personality by the Kabbalists, but rather as a divine establishment or foundation. It was called the first crown, and from it issued the other circles of the Atzaluthic world, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, A9, and A10. In the three lower worlds, these circles are intelligences, planars, and elements, but in this first divine world they are called the rings of the sacred names. The first 10 great circles or globes of light which are manifested out of Ein Sof are the 10 names of God, assigned to them by the Kabbalists are as follows. From Ein Sof came A1, the first crown, and the name of the first power of God was Ehyeh, which means I am, that I am. From A1 came A2, which the first wisdom, and the name of the second power of God was Jehovah, which means essence of being. From A2 came A3, the first understanding, and the name of the third power of God was Jehovah Elohim, which means God of gods. From A3 came A4, the first mercy, and the name of the fourth power of God was El, which means God the Creator. From A4 came A5, the first severity, and the name of the fifth power of God was Elohim Gibor, which means God the Potent. From A5 came A6, the first beauty, and the name of the sixth power of God was Eloah Vada'ath, which means God the Strong. From A6 came A7, the first victory, and the name of the seventh power of God was Jehovah Zaboath, which means God of Hosts. From A7 came A8, the first glory, and the name of the eighth power of God was Elohim Zaboath, which means Lord God of Hosts. From A8 came A9, the first foundation, and the name of the ninth power of God was Shaddai El Chai, which means omnipotent. From A9 came A10, the first kingdom, and the name of the 10th power of God was Adonai Melech, which means God. From A10 came B1, the second crown, and the world of Briah was established. The 10 emanations from A1 to A10, inclusive, are called the foundations of all creations. The Kabbalists designate them the 10 roots of the tree of life. They are arranged in the form of a great human figure called Adam Kadmon, the man made from the fire mist, red dirt, the prototypic universal man. In the Atziluthic world, the powers of God are most purely manifested. These 10 pure and perfect radiations do not descend into the lower worlds and take upon themselves forms, but are reflected upon the substances of the inferior spheres. From the first or Atziluthic world, they are reflected into the second or Briatic world. As the reflection always lacks some of the brilliancy of the original image, so in the Briatic world the 10 radiations lose part of their infinite power. A reflection is always like the thing reflected, but smaller or fainter. In the second world, B1 to B10, the order of the spheres is the name as in the Azaluthic world, but the 10 circles of light are less brilliant and more tangible and are here referred to as 10 great spirits, divine creatures who assist in the establishment of order and intelligence in the universe. As already noted, B1 is born out of A10 and is included within all the spheres superior to itself. Out of B1 are taken 9 globes, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, and B10, which constitute the world of Briah. These 10 subdivisions, however, are really the 10 Atziluthic powers reflected into the substance of the Briatic world. B1 is the ruler of this world, for it contains all the other rings of its own world, and also the rings of the third and fourth worlds, C and D. In the world of Briah, the 10 spheres of light are called the Archangels of Briah. Their order and powers are as follows. From A10 came B1, the second crown. It is called Metatron, the angel of the presence. From B1 came B2, the second wisdom. It is called Raziel, the herald of deity, who revealed the mysteries of Kabbalah to Adam. From B2 came B3, the second understanding. It is called Tzaf Kiel, the contemplation of God. From B3 came B4, the second mercy. It is called Tzad Kiel, the justice of God. From B4 came B5, the second severity. It is called Samael, the severity of God. From B5 came B6, the second beauty. It is called Michael, like unto God. From B6 came B7, the second victory. It is called Haniel, the grace of God. From B7 came B8, the second glory. It is called Raphael, the divine physician. From B8 came B9, the second foundation. It is called Gabriel, the man-god. From B9 came B10, the second kingdom. It is called Sandalphon, the messiahs. From B10 came C1, the third crown, and the world of Yetzirah was established. The 10 archangels of Bria are conceived to be 10 great spiritual beings whose duty is to manifest the 10 powers of the great name of God existent in the Absoluthic world, which surrounds and interpenetrates the entire world of creation. All things manifesting in the lower worlds exist first in the intangible rings of the upper spheres, so that creation is, in truth, the process of making tangible the intangible by extending the intangible into various vibratory rates. The 10 globes of Briatic power, while themselves reflections, are mirrored downward into the third or Yetziratic world, where, still more limited in their expression, they become the spiritual and invisible zodiac, which is behind the visible band of constellations. In this third world, the 10 globes of the original Absoluthic world are greatly limited and dimmed, but they are still infinitely powerful in comparison with the state of substance in which man dwells. In the third world, C1 to C10, the globes become hierarchies of celestial creatures, called choirs of Yetzirah. Here again, all are included within the ring C1, the power which controls the Yetziratic world, and which includes within itself and controls the entire world, D. The order of the globes and the names of the hierarchies composing them are as follows. From B10 came C1, the third crown. The hierarchy is the cherubim, Kaioth Ha-Kadosh, the holy animals. From C1 came C2, the third wisdom. The hierarchy is the cherubim, Orphanim, the wheels. From C2 came C3, the third understanding. The hierarchy is the thrones, Aralim, the mighty ones. From C3 came C4, the third mercy. The hierarchy is the dominations, Chasmalim, the brilliant ones. From C4 came C5, the third severity. The hierarchy is the powers, Sepharim, the flaming serpents. From C5 came C6, the third beauty. The hierarchy is the virtues, Melachim, the kings. From C6 came C7, the third victory. The hierarchy is the principalities, Elohim, the gods. From C7 came C8, the third glory. The hierarchy is the archangels, Ben Elohim, the sons of God. From C8 came C9, the third foundation. The hierarchy is the angels, cherubim, the scat of the sons. From C9 came C10, the third kingdom. The hierarchy is humanity, the Ishim, the souls of just men. From C10 came D1, the fourth crown, and the world of Asiyah was established. From the Yetziratic world, the light of the 10 spheres is reflected into the world of Asiyah, the lowest of the 4. The 10 globes of the original Absoluthic world here take upon themselves forms of physical matter, and the sidereal system is the result. The world of Asiyah, or the elemental world of substance, is the one into which humanity descended at the time of Adam's fall. The Garden of Eden is the 3 upper worlds, and for his sins man was forced into the sphere of substance, and assumed coats of skin, or bodies. All of the spiritual forces of the upper worlds, A, B, C, when they strike against the elements of the lower world, D, are distorted and perverted, resulting in the creation of hierarchies of demons to correspond with the good spirits in each of the higher worlds. In all the ancient mysteries, matter was regarded as the source of all evil and spirit the source of all good, for matter inhibits and limits, so often clogging the inner perceptions that man is unable to recognize his own divine potentialities. Since matter thus prevents humanity from claiming its birthright, it is called the adversary, the power of evil. The fourth world, D, is the world of solar systems, comprising not only the one of which the Earth is a part, but all the solar systems in the universe. The plan of divine activity. According to the Kabbalists, the life of the Supreme Creator permeates all substance, all space, and all time, but for diagrammatic purposes, the supreme, all-inclusive life is limited by Circle 3, which may be called the boundary line of divine existence. The divine life permeating the area bounded by Circle 3 is focused at point 1, which thus becomes the personification of the impersonal life and is termed the first crown. The creative forces pouring through point 1 come into manifestation as the objective universe in the intermediate space, Circle 2. Opinions differ as to the arrangement of the globes of this last world, D1 to D10 inclusive. The ruler of the fourth world is D1, called by some the fiery heaven, by others the primum mobile, or the first motion. From this whirling, fire emanates the material starry zodiac, D2, in contradistinction to the invisible, spiritual zodiac of the Yetziratic world. From the zodiac, D2, are differentiated the spheres of the planets in concatenate order. The 10 spheres of the world of Asiya are as follows. From C10 came D1, the fourth crown, Rashita Gala Galum, the primum mobile, the fiery mist which is the beginning of the material universe. From D1 came D2, the fourth wisdom, Maslot, the zodiac, the firmament of the fixed stars. From D2 came D3, the fourth understanding, Shabbatai, the sphere of Saturn. From D3 came D4, the fourth mercy, Zedeg, the sphere of Jupiter. From D4 came D5, the fourth severity, Madim, the sphere of Mars. From D5 came D6, the fourth beauty, Shemesh, the sphere of the sun. From D6 came D7, the fourth victory, Noga, the sphere of Venus. From D7 came D8, the fourth glory, Kokab, the sphere of Mercury. From D8 came D9, the fourth foundation, Levana, the sphere of the moon. From D9 came D10, the fourth kingdom, Cholom Yosodoth, the sphere of the four elements. By inserting a sphere, which he calls the Empyrean, before the primum mobile, Kircher moves each of the other spheres down one, resulting in the elimination of the sphere of the elements and making D10 the sphere of the moon. In the world of Asiya are to be found the demons and tempters. These are likewise reflections of the 10 great globes of Atziluth, but because of the distortion of the images resulting from the base substances of the world of Asiya upon which they are reflected, they become evil creatures, called shells, by the Kabbalists. There are 10 hierarchies of these demons to correlate with the 10 hierarchies of good spirits, composing the Yetziratic world. There are also 10 archdemons, corresponding to the 10 archangels of Briah. The black magicians use these inverted spirits in their efforts to attain their nefarious ends, but in time the demon destroys those who bind themselves to it. The 10 orders of demons and the 10 archdemons of the world of Asiya are as follows. D1, the evil crown. The hierarchy is called Thamiel, the doubles of God, the two-headed. The archdemons are Satan and Moloch. From D1 came D2, the evil wisdom. The hierarchy is called Kayidiel, those who obstruct. The archdemon is Adam Belial. From D2 came D3, the evil understanding. The hierarchy is called Satharial, the concealment of God. The archdemon is Lucifuge. From D3 came D4, the evil mercy. The hierarchy is called Gam Kikoth, the disturber of things. The archdemon is Astaroth. From D4 came D5, the evil severity. The hierarchy is called Golab, incendiarism and burning. The archdemon is Asmodeus. From D5 came D6, the evil beauty. The hierarchy is called Togarini, the wranglers. The demon is Belphegor. From D6 came D7, the evil victory. The hierarchy is called Harab Sarap, the dispensing raven. The archdemon is Baal Kanan. From D7 came D8, the evil glory. The hierarchy is called Samael, the embroiler. The archdemon is called Adramelech. From D8 came D9, the evil foundation. The hierarchy is called Gamaliel, the obscene. The archdemon is Lilith. From D9 came D10, the evil kingdom. The hierarchy is called Nahemoth, the impure. The archdemon is Nahema. The Kabbalists declare that the worlds, intelligences, and hierarchies were established according to the vision of Ezekiel. By the man of Ezekiel's vision is symbolized the world of Atziluth. by the throne, the world of Bria, by the firmament, the world of Yetzirah, and by the living creatures, the world of Asiyah. These spheres are the wheels within wheels of the prophet. The Kabbalists next established a human figure in each of the four worlds. A1 was the head and A10 the feet of the man of Atziluth. B1 was the head and B10 the feet of the man of Bria. C1 was the head and C10 the feet of the man of Yetzirah. D1 was the head and D10 the feet of the man of Asiyah. These four are called the world men. They are considered androgynous and are the prototypes of humanity. The human body, like that of the universe, is considered to be a material expression of 10 globes or spheres of light. Therefore, man is called the microcosm, the little world, built in the image of the great world, of which he is a part. The Kabbalists also established a mysterious universal man with his head at A1 and his feet at D10. This is probably the secret significance of the great figure of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, with its head in the world of Atziluth, its arms and hands in the world of Bria, its generative system in the world of Yetzirah, and its legs and feet in the world of Asiyah. This is the grand man of the Zohar, of whom Eliphas Levi writes. It is not less astonishing to observe at the beginning of the Zohar the profundity of its notions and the sublime simplicity of its images. It is said as follows: the science of equilibrium is the key of occult science. Unbalanced forces perish in the void. So passes the kings of the elder world, the princes of the giants. They have fallen like trees without roots, and their place is found no more. Through the conflict of unbalanced forces, the devastated earth was void and formless until the Spirit of God made for itself a place in heaven and reduced the mass of waters. All the aspirations of nature were directed then towards unity of form, towards the living synthesis, if equilibrated forces, the face of God, crowned with light, rose over the vast sea and was reflected in the waters thereof. His 2 eyes were manifested, radiating with splendor, darting 2 beams of light which crossed with those of the reflection. The brow of God and his eyes formed a triangle in heaven, and its reflection formed a second triangle in the waters. So was revealed the number 6, being that of universal creation. The text, which would be unintelligible in a literal version, is translated here by way of interpretation. The author makes it plain that the human form which he ascribes to deity is only an image of his meaning, and that God is beyond expression by human thought or representation, by any figure. Pascal said that God is a circle, of which the center is everywhere and the circumference nowhere. But how is one to imagine a circle apart from its circumference? The Zohar adopts the antithesis of this paradoxical image, and in respect of the circle of Pascal, would say rather that the circumference is everywhere, while that which is nowhere is the center. It is, however, to a balance and not to a circle that it compares the universal equilibrium of things. It affirms that equilibrium is everywhere, and so also is the central point where the balance hangs in suspension. We find that the Zohar is thus more forcible and more profound than Pascal. The Zohar is a genesis of light. The Sefer Yetzirah is a ladder of truth. Therein are expounded the 32 absolute symbols of speech, being numbers and letters. Each letter produces a number, an idea, and a form, so that mathematics are applicable to forms and ideas, even as to numbers, in virtue of an exact proportion and a perfect correspondence. By the science of the Sefer Yetzirah, the human mind is rooted in truth and in reason. It accounts for all progress possible to intelligence by means of the evolution of numbers. Thus does the Zohar represent absolute truth, while the Sefer Yetzirah furnishes the method of its acquisition, its discernment and application. History of magic. By placing man himself at the point D10, his true constitution is revealed. He exists upon 4 worlds, only one of which is visible. It is then made evident that his parts and members upon the material plane are, by analogy, hierarchies and intelligences in the higher worlds. Here, again, the law of interpretation is evidenced. Although within man is the entire universe, the 43 spheres interpenetrating D10, he is ignorant of its existence because he cannot exercise control over that which is superior to or greater than himself. Nevertheless, all these higher spheres exercise control over him, as his functions and activities demonstrate. If they did not, he would be an inert mass of substance. Death is merely the result of deflecting the life impulses of the higher rings away from the lower body. The control of the transubstantial rings over their own material reflection is called life, and the spirit of man is, in reality, a name given to this great host of intelligences, which are focused upon substance through a point called the ego, established in the midst of themselves. X1 is the outside boundary of the human auric egg, and the entire diagram becomes a cross-section of the constitution of man, or a cross-section of the cosmic constitution, if correlated with the universe. By the secret culture of the Kabbalistic school, man is taught how to climb the rings, or unfold his consciousness, until at last he returns to Ein Sof. The process by which this is accomplished is called the 50 Gates of Light. Kircher, the Jesuit Kabbalist, declares that Moses passed through 49 of the gates, but that Christ alone passed the 50th gate. To the third edition of the Sefer Yetzirah, translated from the Hebrew by Wynne Westcott, are appended the 50 gates of intelligence, emanating from Binah, the second Sephirah. The source of this information is Kircher's Oedipus Aegypticus. The gates are divided into 6 orders, of which the first 4 have each 10 subdivisions, the 5th 9, and the 6th only 1. The first order of gates is termed elementary, and its divisions are as follows. 1. Chaos, Heil, the first matter. 2. Formless, void, lifeless. 3. The abyss. 4. Origin of the elements. 5. Earth, no seed germs. 6. Water. 7. Air. 8. Fire. 9. Differentiation of qualities. 10. Mixture and combination. The second order of gates is termed Decad of evolution, and its divisions are as follows. 11. Minerals differentiate. 12. Vegetable principles appear. 13. Seeds germinate in moisture. 14. Herbs and trees. 15. Fructification in vegetable life. 16. Origin of low forms of animal life. 17. Insects and reptiles appear. 18. Fishes, vertebrate life in the waters. 19. Birds, vertebrate life in the air. 20. Quadrupeds, vertebrate earth animals. The third order of gates is termed Decad of humanity, and its divisions are as follows. 21. Appearance of man. 22. Material human body. 23. Human soul conferred. 24. Mystery of Adam and Eve. 25. Complete man as the microcosm. 26. Gift of 5 human faces acting exteriorly. 27. Gift of 5 powers to the soul. 28. Adam Kadmon, the heavenly man. 29. Angelic beings. 30. Man in the image of God. The fourth order of gates is termed World of Spheres, and its divisions are as follows. 31. The heaven of the moon. 32. The heaven of Mercury. 33. The heaven of Venus. 34. The heaven of the sun. 35. The heaven of Mars. 36. The heaven of Jupiter. 37. The heaven of Saturn. 38. The firmament. 39. The primum mobile. 40. The Empyrean heaven. The fifth order of gates is termed the angelic world, and its divisions are as follows. 41. Ishim, sons of fire. 42. Orphanim, cherubim. 43. Arolim, thrones. 44. Kashmalim, dominions. 45. Seraphim, virtues. 46. Melachim, powers. 47. Elohim, principalities. 48. Ben Elohim, angels. 49. Cherubim, archangels. The order of the angels is a matter of controversy, the arrangement above differing from that accepted in other sections of this volume. The rabbins disagree fundamentally as to the proper sequence of the angelic names. The sixth order is termed the archetype, and consists of but one gate. 50. God, Ein Sof, he whom no mortal eye hath seen. The 50th gate leads from creation into the creative principle, and he who passes through it returns into the unlimited and undifferentiated condition of all. The 50 gates reveal a certain evolutionary process, and it was declared by the rabbins that he who would attain to the highest degree of understanding must pass sequentially through all of these orders of life, each of which constituted a gate in that the spirit, passing from the lower to the higher, found in each more responsive organism new avenues of self-expression. The Tree of the Sephiroth. The Tree of the Sephiroth may be considered an invaluable compendium of the secret philosophy which originally was the spirit and soul of Hasidism. The Kabbalah is the priceless heritage of Israel, but each year those who comprehend its true principles become fewer in number. The Jew of today, if he lacks a realization of the profundity of his people's doctrines, is usually permeated with that most dangerous form of ignorance, modernism, and is prone to regard the Kabbalah either as an evil to be shunned like the plague, or as a ridiculous superstition which has survived the black magic of the Dark Ages. Yet without the key which the Kabbalah supplies, the spiritual mysteries of both the Old and the New Testament must remain unsolved by Jew and Gentile alike. The Sephirothic tree consists of 10 globes of luminous splendor, arranged in 3 vertical columns and connected by 22 channels or paths. The 10 globes are called the Sephiroth, and to them are assigned the numbers 1 to 10. The 3 columns are called mercy on the right, severity on the left, and between them mildness as the reconciling power. The columns may also be said to represent wisdom, strength, and beauty, which form the triune support of the universe, for it is written that the foundation of all things is 3. The 22 channels are the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and to them are assigned the major trumps of the tarot deck of symbolic cards. Eliphas Levi declared that by arranging the tarot cards according to a definite order, man could discover all that is knowable concerning his God, his universe, and himself. When the 10 numbers which pertain to the globes, or Sephiroth, are combined with the 22 letters relating to the channels, the resultant sum is 32, the number peculiar to the Kabbalistic paths of wisdom. These paths, occasionally referred to as the 32 teeth in the mouth of the vast countenance, or as the 32 nerves that branch out from the divine brain, are analogous to the first 32 degrees of Freemasonry, which elevate the candidate to the dignity of a prince of the royal secret. Kabbalists also consider it extremely significant that in the original Hebrew scriptures the name of God should occur 32 times in the first chapter of Genesis. In the English translations of the Bible, the name appears 33 times. In the mystic analysis of the human body, according to the rabbins, 32 spinal segments lead upward to the temple of wisdom, the skull. The 4 Kabbalistic trees described in the preceding chapter were combined by later Jewish scholars into one all-inclusive diagram, and termed by them not only the Sephirothic but also the archetypal or heavenly Adam. According to some authorities, it is this heavenly Adam, and not a terrestrial man, whose creation is described in the opening chapters of Genesis. Out of the substances of this divine man, the universe was formed. In him it remains and will continue even after dissolution shall resolve the spheres back into their own primitive substance. The deity is never conceived of as actually contained in these Sephiroth, which are purely hypothetical vessels employed to define the limits of the creative essence. Adolf Frank rather likens the Sephiroth to varicolored, transparent glass bowls filled with pure light, which apparently assumes the color of its containers, but whose essential nature remains ever unchanged and unchangeable. The 10 Sephiroth, composing the body of the prototypic atom, the numbers related to them, and the parts of the universe to which they correspond, are as follows. It must continually be emphasized that the Sephiroth and the properties assigned to them, like the tetractys of the Pythagoreans, are merely symbols of the cosmic system with its multitude of parts. The truer and fuller meaning of these emblems may not be revealed by writing or by word of mouth, but must be divined as the result of study and meditation. In the Sefer HaZohar, it is written that there is a garment, the written doctrine which every man may see. Those with understanding do not look upon the garment, but at the body beneath it, the intellectual and philosophical code. The wisest of all, however, the servants of the heavenly king, Look at nothing save the soul, the spiritual doctrine, which is the eternal and ever-springing root of the law. Of this great truth, Eliphas Levi also writes declaring that none can gain entrance to the secret house of wisdom unless he wear the voluminous cape of Apollonius of Tyana and carry in his hand the lamp of Hermes. The cape signifies the qualities of self-possession and self-reliance, which must envelop the seeker as a cloak of strength, while the ever-burning lamp of the sage represents the illumined mind and perfectly balanced intellect, without which the mystery of the ages can never be solved. The Sephirothic tree is sometimes depicted as a human body, thus more definitely establishing the true identity of the first, or heavenly man, Adam Kadmon, the idea of the universe. The 10 divine globes, or Sephiroth, are then considered as analogous to the 10 sacred members and organs of the protogonos, according to the following arrangement. Kether is the crown of the prototypic head and perhaps refers to the pineal gland. Chokhmah and Binah are the right and left hemispheres respectively of the great brain. Chesed and Gebura, or Pekad, are the right and left arms respectively, signifying the active creative members of the grand man. Tifereth is the heart, or, according to some, the entire viscera. Netzah and Hod are the right and left legs respectively, or the supports of the world. Jesod is the generative system, or the foundation of form, and Malkuth represents the 2 feet, or the base of being. Occasionally, Jesod is considered as the male and Malkuth as the female generative power. The grand man thus conceived is the gigantic image of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, with head of gold, arms and chest of silver, body of brass, legs of iron, and feet of clay. The medieval Kabbalists also assigned one of the 10 commandments and a 10th part of the Lord's Prayer in sequential order to each of the 10 Sephiroth. Concerning the emanations from Kether, which established themselves as 3 triads of creative powers, termed in the Sefer HaZohar 3 heads, each with 3 faces, H.P. Blavatsky writes, "This Kether was the first Sephiroth, containing in herself the other 9 Sephiroth, or intelligences. In their totality and unity, they represent the archetypal man, Adam Kadmon, who, in his individuality or unity, is yet dual or bisexual, the Greek didymos, for he is the prototype of all humanity. Thus we obtain 3 trinities, each contained in a head. In the first head or face, the 3-faced Hindu Trimurti, we find Sephirah, or Kether, the first androgyne, at the apex of the upper triangle, emitting Hakma, or Kokma, or wisdom, a masculine and active potency, also called Jah, and Binah, or intelligence, a female and passive potency, also represented by the name Jehovah. These 3 form the first trinity or face of the Sephiroth. This triad emanated Hesed, or mercy, a masculine active potency, also called El, from which emanated Gebura, or justice, also called Eloha, a feminine passive potency. From the union of these 2 was produced Tifereth, beauty, clemency, the spiritual sun, known by the divine name Elohim, and the second triad, face or head, was formed. These emanating, in their turn, the masculine potency Netzah, firmness, or Jehovah Sabaoth, who issued the feminine passive potency Hod, splendor, or Elohim Sabaoth. The 2 produced Jesod, foundation, who is the mighty living one, El Chai, thus yielding the 3rd trinity or head. The 10th Sephiroth is rather a duad, and is represented on the diagrams as the lowest circle. It is Malkuth, or kingdom, and Shekinah, also called Adonai, and cherubim among the angelic hosts. The first head is called the intellectual world, the second head is the sensuous, or the world of perception, and the third is the material, or physical world. See Isis Unveiled. The 4 Sephirothic trees. The 40 concentric circles, shown in the large circular cut in the preceding chapter, are here arranged as 4 trees, each consisting of 10 circles. These trees disclose the organization of the hierarchies controlling the destinies of all creation. The trees are the same in each of the 4 worlds, but the powers vested in the globes express themselves differently through the substances of each world, resulting in endless differentiation. Among the later Kabbalists, There is also a division of the Sephirothic tree into 5 parts, in which the distribution of the globes is according to the following order. 1. Macroprosophos, or the Great Face, is the term applied to Kether as the first and most exalted of the Sephiroth, and includes the 9 potencies, or Sephiroth, issuing from Kether. 2. Abba, the Great Father, is the term generally applied to Chokhmah, or universal wisdom, the first emanation of Kether, but according to Ibn Geberal, Chokhmah represents the Son, the Logos, or the Word born from the union of Kether and Binah. 3. Aima, the Great Mother, is the name by which Binah, or the third Sephirah, is generally known. This is the Holy Ghost, from whose body the generations issue forth. Being the third person of the creative triad, it corresponds to Jehovah, the Demiurgus. 4. Microprosophos, or the Lesser Face, is composed of the 6 Sephiroth, Chesed, Geburah, Tiferet, Netzah, Hod, and Jesod. The Microprosophos is commonly called the Lesser Atom, or Zair Anpin, whereas the Macroprosophos, or Superior Atom, is Arik Anpin. The Lesser Face is properly symbolized by the 6-pointed star or interlaced triangles of Zion, and also by the 6 faces of the cube. It represents the directions north, east, south, west, up, and down, and also the first 6 days of creation. In his list of the parts of the Microprosophos, MacGregor Mathers includes Binah as the first and superior part of the lesser atom, thus making his constitution septenary. If Microprosophos can be considered as sexpartite, then his globes, or Sephiroth, are analogous to the 6 days of creation, and the 10th globe, Malkuth, to the Sabbath of rest. 5. The bride of Microprosophos is Malkuth, the epitome of the Sephiroth, its quaternary constitution being composed of blendings of the 4 elements. This is the divine Eve that is taken out of the side of Microprosophos and combines the potencies of the entire Kabbalistic tree in one sphere, which may be termed man. A table of Sephirothic correspondences, from Flood's Collectio Operarum. The above diagram has been specially translated from the Latin as being of unique value to students of Kabbalism, and also as an example of Robert Flood's unusual ability in assembling tables of correspondences. Robert Flood ranks among the most eminent Rosicrucians and Freemasons. In fact, he has often been called the first English Rosicrucian. He has written several valuable documents directly bearing upon the Rosicrucian enigma. It is significant that the most important of his works should be published at the same time as those of Bacon, Shakespeare, and the first Rosicrucian authors. According to the mysteries of the Sephiroth, the order of the creation, or the divine lightning flash which zigzags through the 4 worlds according to the order of the divine emanations, is thus described. From Ein Sof, the nothing and all, the eternal and unconditioned potency, issues Macroprosophos, the long face, of whom it is written, "Within his skull exist daily 13,000 myriads of worlds, which draw their existence from him and by him are upheld." See the Greater Holy Assembly. Macroprosophos, the directionalized will of Ein Sof, corresponding to Kether, the crown of the Sephiroth, gives birth out of himself to the 9 lesser spheres, of which he is the sum and the overbrooding cause. The 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, by the various combinations of which the laws of the universe are established, constitute the scepter of Macroprosophos, which he wields from his flaming throne in the Atsaluthic world. From this eternal and ancient androgyne, Kether, come forth from Chokhmah, the Great Father, and Binah, the Great Mother. These 2 are usually referred to as Abba and Aima, respectively. The first male and the first female, the prototypes of sex. These correspond to the first 2 letters of the sacred name, Jehovah. The father is the I, and the mother is the H. Abba and Aima symbolize the creative activities of the universe and are established in the creative world of Briah. In the Sefer HaZohar it is written, "And therefore are all things established in the equality of male and female, for were it not so, how could they subsist? This beginning is the father of all things, the father of all fathers, and both are mutually bound together, and the one path shineth into the other, Chokhmah, wisdom, as the father, Binya, understanding, as the mother. There is a difference of opinion concerning certain of the relationships of the parts of the first triad. Some Kabbalists, including Ibn Geberal, consider Kether as the father, Binah as the mother, and Chokhmah as the son. In this later arrangement, wisdom, which is the attribute of the son, becomes the creator of the lower spheres. The symbol of Binah is the dove, a proper emblem for the brooding maternal instinct of the universal mother. Because of the close similarity of their creative triad to the Christian Trinity, the later Kabbalists rearranged the first Sephiroth and added a mysterious point called Da'ath, a hypothetical 11th Sephirah. This is located where the horizontal line connecting Chokhmah and Binah crosses the vertical line, joining Kether and Tifereth. While Da'ath is not mentioned by the first Kabbalists, it is a highly important element, and its addition to the Sephirothic tree was not made without full realization of the significance of such action. If Chokhmah be considered the active, intelligent energy of Kether, and Binah the receptive capacity of Kether, then Da'ath becomes the thought, which, created by Chokhmah, flows into Binah. The postulation of Da'ath clarifies the problem of the creative trinity, for here it is diagrammatically represented as consisting of Chokhmah, the father, Binah, the mother or Holy Ghost, and Da'ath, the word by which the worlds were established. Isaac Meyer discounts the importance of Da'ath, declaring it a subterfuge to conceal the fact that Kether, and not Chokhmah, is the true father of the creative triad. He makes no attempt to give a satisfactory explanation for the symbolism of this hypothetical Sephirah. The Sephirothic tree of the later Kabbalists, translated from Kircher's Oedipus Egypticus. Having demonstrated that the Kabbalists divided the universe into 4 worlds, each consisting of 10 spheres, it is necessary to consider next how the 10 spheres of each world were arranged into what is called the Sephirothic tree. This tree is composed of 10 circles, representing the numbers 1 to 20, and connected together by 22 canals, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. The 10 numbers plus the 22 letters result in the occult number 32, which, according to the Mishnah, signifies the 32 paths of wisdom. Letters and numbers, according to the Kabbalists, are the keys to all knowledge, for by a secret system of arranging them, the mysteries of creation are revealed. For this reason they are called the paths of wisdom. This occult fact is carefully concealed in the 32nd degree of Freemasonry. There are 4 trees, one in each of the 4 worlds established in the preceding chapter. The first is in the Atzaluthic world, the 10 circles being the 10 globes of light established in the midst of Ein Sof. The powers and attributes of this tree are reflected into each of the 3 lower worlds, the form of the tree remaining the same, but its power diminishing as it descends. To further complicate their doctrine, the Kabbalists created another tree, which was a composite of all 4 of the world trees, but consisted of only 10 globes. In this single tree were condensed all the arcana previously scattered through the voluminous archives of Kabbalistic literature. According to the original conception, from the union of the Divine Father and the Divine Mother is produced Microprosophus, the short face or the lesser countenance, which is established in the Yetziratic world of formation and corresponds to the letter V in the Great Name. The 6 powers of Microprosophus flow from and are contained in their own source, which is Binah, the mother of the lesser atom. These constitute the spheres of the sacred planets. Their name is Elohim, and they move upon the face of the deep. The 10th Sephirah, Malkuth, the kingdom, is described as the bride of the lesser atom, created back-to-back with her Lord, and to it is assigned the final H, the last letter of the sacred name. The dwelling place of Malkuth is in the 4th world, Asiyah, and it is composed of all the superior powers reflected into the elements of the terrestrial sphere. Thus it will be seen that the Kabbalistic tree extends through 4 worlds, with its branches in matter and its roots in the Ancient of Ancients, Macroprosophus. 3 vertical columns support the universal system as typified by the Sephirothic tree. The central pillar has its foundation in Kether, the Eternal One. It passes downward through the hypothetical Sephirah, Da'ath, and then through the Tifereth and Jesad, with its lower end resting upon the firm foundation of Malkuth, the last of the globes. The true import of the central pillar is equilibrium. It demonstrates how the deity always manifests by emanating poles of expression from the midst of itself, but remaining free from the illusion of polarity. If the numbers of the 4 Sephiroth connected by this column be added together, 1 plus 6 plus 9 plus 10, the sum is 26, the number of Jehovah. See chapter on Pythagorean mathematics. The column on the right, which is called Yachin, has its foundation on Chokhmah, the outpouring wisdom of God. The 3 globes suspended from it are all masculine potencies. The column at the left is called Boaz. The 3 globes upon it are feminine and receptive potencies, for it is founded in understanding, a receptive and maternal potency. Wisdom, it will be noted, is considered as radiant or outpouring, and understanding as receptive or something which is filled by the flowing of wisdom. The 3 pillars are ultimately united in Malkuth, in which all the powers of the superior worlds are manifested. The 4 globes upon the central column reveal the function of the creative power in the various worlds. In the first world, the creative power is will, the one divine cause. In the second world, the hypothetical da'ath, the word coming forth from the divine thought. In the third world, Tifereth, the sun or focal point between God and nature. In the fourth world, it is twofold, being the positive and negative poles of the reproductive system, of which Jesod is the male and Malkuth the female. In Kircher's Sephirothic tree, it should be especially noted that the ornaments of the tabernacle appear in the various parts of the diagram. These indicate a direct relationship between the sacred house of God and the universe, a relationship which must always be considered as existing between the deity through whose activity the world is produced and the world itself, which must be the house or vehicle of that deity. Could the modern scientific world but sense the true profundity of these philosophical deductions of the ancients, it would realize that those who fabricated the structure of the Kabbalah possessed a knowledge of the celestial plan comparable in every respect with that of the modern savant. The Tetragrammaton, or the 4-lettered name of God, written thus, is pronounced Jehovah. The first letter is Yod, the germ, the life, the flame, the cause, the one and the most fundamental of the Jewish phallic emblems. Its numerical value is 10, and it is to be considered as the one containing the 10. In the Kabbalah, it is declared that the Yod is in reality 3 Yods, of which the first is the beginning, the second is the center, and the third is the end. Its throne is the Sephirah Chokhmah, according to Ibn Geberal, Kether, from which it goes forth to impregnate Binyah, which is the first Hey. The result of this union is Tifereth, which is the vow, whose power is 6, and which symbolizes the 6 members of the lesser atom. The final Hey is Malkuth, the inferior mother, partaking in part of the potencies of the divine mother, the first Hey. By placing the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton in a vertical column, a figure closely resembling the human body is produced, with Yod for the head, the first Hey for the arms and shoulders, Vav for the trunk of the body, and the final Hey for the hips and legs. If the Hebrew letters be exchanged for their English equivalents, the form is not materially changed or the analogy altered. It is also extremely significant that by inserting the letter Shin in the middle of the name Jehovah, the word Jehoshua, or Jesus, is formed thus. In the Kabbalistic mysteries, according to Eliphas Levi, the name Jehovah is occasionally written by connecting together 24 dots, the 24 powers before the throne, and it is believed that the name of the power of evil is the sign of Jehovah reversed or inverted. See Transcendental Magic. Of the great word, Albert Pike writes, "The true word of a Mason is to be found in the concealed and profound meaning of the ineffable name of deity, communicated by God to Moses, and which meaning was long lost by the very precautions taken to conceal it. The true pronunciation of that name was in truth a secret, in which, however, was involved the far more profound secret of its meaning. In that meaning is included all the truth that can be known by us in regard to the nature of God." See Morals and Dogma. The Sephiroth in the form of the solar system, from Maurice's Indian Antiquities. Thomas Maurice reproduces the above engraving which is modification of the elaborate tree on the preceding page. The Sephiroth are here superimposed, decreasing in size as they decrease in power and dignity. Thus, the crown is the greatest and the all-inclusive, and the kingdom, which represents the physical universe, is the smallest and of least importance. Kabbalistic Keys to the Creation of Man. Henry Stephen, in A World of Wonders, published in 1607, mentions a monk of St. Anthony who declared that while in Jerusalem, the patriarch of that city had shown him not only one of the ribs of the Word made flesh, and some rays from the Star of Bethlehem, but also the snout of a seraph, a fingernail of a cherub, the horns of Moses, and a casket containing the breath of Christ. To a people believing implicitly in a seraph sufficiently tangible to have its proboscis preserved, the more profound issues of Judaistic philosophy must necessarily be incomprehensible, nor is it difficult to imagine the reaction taking place in the mind of some ancient sage should he hear that a cherub, which, according to St. Augustine, signifies the evangelists, according to Philo Judaeus, the outermost circumference of the entire heavens, and according to several of the church fathers, the wisdom of God, had sprouted fingernails. The hopeless confusion of divine principles with the allegorical figures created to represent them to the limited faculties of the uninitiated has resulted in the most atrocious misconceptions of spiritual truths. Concepts well nigh as preposterous as these, however, still stand as adamantine barriers to a true understanding of Old and New Testament symbolism, for until man disentangles his reasoning powers from the web of venerated absurdities in which his mind has lain ensnared for centuries, how can truth ever be discovered? The Old Testament, especially the Pentateuch, contains not only the traditional account of the creation of the world and of man, but also, locked within it, the secrets of the Egyptian initiators of the Moses concerning the genesis of the God-man, the initiate, and the mystery of his rebirth through philosophy, while the lawgiver of Israel is known to have compiled several works other than those generally attributed to him. The writings now commonly circulated as the purported 6th and 7th books of Moses are in reality spurious treatises on black magic foisted on the credulous during the Middle Ages. Out of the hundreds of millions of pious and thoughtful students of Holy Writ, it is almost inconceivable that but a mere handful have sensed the sublimity of the esoteric teachings of Sod, the Jewish mysteries of Adonai. Yet familiarity with the three Kabbalistical processes termed Gematria, Notarkan, and Temura makes possible the discovery of many of the profoundest truths of ancient Jewish superphysics. By Gematria is meant not only the exchange of letters for their numerical equivalents, but also the method of determining by an analysis of its measurements the mystic purpose for which a building or other object was constructed. S. L. MacGregor Mathers, in the Kabbalah Unveiled, gives this example of the application of Gematria. Thus also the passage, Genesis 28:2, Vehena Shalisha, and lo, 3 men, equals in numerical value, Elo, Michael, Gabriel, ve Raphael. These are Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. For each phrase equals 701. Assuming the sides of a scaling to be 11, 9, and 6 inches, a triangle of such dimensions would then be an appropriate symbol of Jehovah, for the sum of its 3 sides would be 26, the numerical value of the Hebrew word Jehovah. Gematria also includes the system of discovering the arcane meaning of a word by analyzing the size and arrangement of the strokes employed in the formation of its various letters. Gematria was employed by the Greeks as well as the Jews. The books of the New Testament, particularly those attributed to St. John, contain many examples of its use. Nicephorus Callistus declared the Gospel according to St. John to have been discovered in a cavern under the temple at Jerusalem, the volume having been secreted long anterior to the Christian era. The existence of interpolated material in the 4th Gospel substantiates the belief that the work was originally written without any specific reference to the man Jesus, the statements therein accredited to him being originally mystical discourses delivered by the personification of the universal mind. The remaining Johannine writings, the epistles and the apocalypse, are enshrouded by a similar veil of mystery. By Notarikon, each letter of a word may become the initial character of a new word. Thus, from Breshith, the first word in the book of Genesis, are extracted 6 words which mean that, in the beginning, the Elohim saw that Israel would accept the law. Mr. McGregor Mathers also gives 6 additional examples of notarikon, formed from the above word by Solomon Meir ben Moses, a medieval Kabbalist. From the famous acrostic ascribed to the Erythraean Sibyl, St. Augustine derived the word, by which notarikon was expanded into the phrase, Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. By another use of notarikon, directly the reverse of the first, the initial, last, or middle letters of the word of a sentence may be joined together to form a new word or words. For example, the name Amen may be extracted from the Lord is the faithful King. Because they had embodied these cryptic devices in their sacred writings, the ancient priests admonished their disciples never to translate, edit, or rewrite the contents of the sacred books. Under the general heading of Temura, several systems may be grouped and explained in which various letters are substituted for other letters according to the prearranged tables or certain mathematical arrangements of letters, regular or irregular. Thus the alphabet may be broken into 2 equal parts and written in horizontal lines so that the letters of the lower row can be exchanged for those of the upper row, or vice versa. By this procedure, the letters of the word kuzu may be exchanged for those of Yahweh, the tetragrammaton. In another form of Temura, the letters are merely rearranged. This is the stone which is found in the center of the world, from which point the earth spread out on all sides. When broken in 2, the stone is, which means the placing of God. See Pekude Rakov, 71 and 72. Again, Temura may consist of a simple anagram, as in the English word live, which reversed becomes evil. The various systems of Temura are among the most complicated and profound devices of the ancient rabbins. Among theological scholars there is a growing conviction that the hitherto accepted translations of the scriptural writings do not adequately express the spirit of the original documents. The Vision of Ezekiel, from the Bear Bible. This plate, which is from the first Protestant Bible published in Spanish, shows the Merkava, or chariot of Jehovah, which appeared to Ezekiel by the river Chebar. The prophet beheld 4 strange creatures, each having 4 heads, 4 wings, and brazen hooves like those of a calf, and there were 4 wheels, filled with eyes. Where the cherubim went, the wheels also went. The space between the cherubim and the wheels was filled with coals of fire. Upon the top of the chariot was a throne upon which sat the likeness of a man, Ezekiel fell upon his knees when he beheld the Merkava surrounded by a whirlwind of clouds and flames, A, B, and C. A hand, K, reached out from the clouds, and the prophet was ordered to eat of a scroll which the hand held forth. According to the mystics, the wheels supporting the throne of God represent the orbits of the planets, and the entire solar system is properly the Merkava, or chariot of God. One of the divisions of the Kabbalah, that dealing with the arts and sciences of those planes which are under the heavens, is called the Merkava. In the Zohar, it is written that the celestial throne, or Ezekiel's vision, signifies the traditional law. The appearance of a man sitting upon the throne represents the written law. Philo Judaeus, in describing the cherubim upon the Ark of the Covenant, declares that the figures are an intimation of the revolutions of the whole heavens, one of the cherubim representing the outer circumference, and the other the inner sphere. Facing each other, they represent the 2 hemispheres of the world. The flaming sword of the cherubim of Genesis is the central motion and agitation of the heavenly bodies. In all probability, it also represents the solar ray. After the first copy of The Book of God, writes H.P. Blavatsky, has been edited and launched on the world by Hilkiah, this copy disappears, and Ezra has to make a new Bible, which Judas Maccabeus finishes. When it was copied from the horned letters into square letters, it was corrupted beyond recognition. The Masorah completed the work of destruction. Finally, we have a text, not 900 years old, abounding with omissions, interpolations, and premeditated perversions. See Isis Unveiled. Professor Crawford Howell Toy of Harvard notes, Manuscripts were copied and recopied by scribes who not only sometimes made errors in letters and words, but permitted themselves to introduce new material into the text, or to combine in one manuscript, without mark of division, writings composed by different men. Instances of these sorts of procedure are found especially in Micah and Jeremiah, and the groups of prophecies which go under the names of Isaiah and Zechariah. See Judaism and Christianity. Does the mutilated condition of the Holy Bible, in part accidental, represent nonetheless a definite effort to confuse the uninitiated reader, and thus better conceal the secrets of the Jewish Tanaim? Never has the Christian world been in possession of those hidden scrolls which contain the secret doctrine of Israel, and if the Kabbalists were correct in their assumption that the lost books of the Mosaic mysteries have been woven into the fabric of the Torah, then the scriptures are veritably books within books. In rabbinical circles, the opinion is prevalent that Christendom never has understood the Old Testament, and probably never will. In fact, the feeling exists, in some quarters at least, that the Old Testament is the exclusive possession of the Jewish faith, also that Christianity, after its unrelenting persecution of the Jew, takes unwarranted liberties when it includes strictly Jewish writings in its sacred canon. But, as noted by one rabbi, if Christianity must use the Jewish scriptures, it should at least strive to do so with some degree of intelligence. In the opening chapter of Genesis, it is stated that after creating light and separating it from darkness, the 7 Elohim divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. Having thus established the inferior universe in perfect accord with the esoteric teachings of the Hindu, Egyptian, and Greek mysteries, the Elohim next turned their attention to the production of flora and fauna, and lastly man. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. Consider in thoughtful silence the startling use of pronouns in the above extract from The Most Perfect Example of English Literature. When the plural and androgynous Hebrew word Elohim was translated into the singular and sexless word God, the opening chapters of Genesis were rendered comparatively meaningless. It may have been feared that had the word been correctly translated as the male and female creative agencies, the Christians would have been justly accused of worshiping a plurality of gods in the face of their repeated claims to monotheism. The plural form of the pronouns us and our reveals unmistakably, however, the pantheistic nature of divinity. Further, the androgynous constitution of the Elohim, or God, is disclosed in the next verse, where he, referring to God, is said to have created man in his own image, male and female, or more properly, as the division of the sexes had not yet taken place, male-female. This is a death blow to the time-honored concept that God is a masculine potency as portrayed by Michelangelo on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. The Elohim then ordered these androgynous beings to be fruitful. Note that neither the masculine nor the feminine principle as yet existed in a separate state. And lastly, note the word replenish. The prefix re denotes back to an original or former state or position, or repetition or restoration. See Webster's International Dictionary, 1926. This definite reference to a humanity existing prior to the creation of man, described in Genesis, must be evident to the most casual reader of Scripture. An examination of Bible dictionaries, encyclopedias, and commentaries discloses the plural form of the word Elohim to be beyond the comprehension of their respected authors and editors. The New Schaff-Herzog Encyclopedia of Religious Knowledge thus sums up the controversy over the plural form of the word Elohim. Does it now, or did it originally signify plurality of divine being? A dictionary of the Bible edited by James Hastings contains the following conclusion, which echoes the sentiments of more critical etymologists of the Bible. The use of the plural Elohim is also difficult to explain. Dr. Havernick considers the plural form from Elohim to signify the abundance and super-richness existing in the divine being. His statement, which appears in the Popular and Critical Bible Encyclopedia, is representative of the efforts made to circumvent this extremely damaging word. The International Standard Bible Dictionary considers the explanations offered by modern theologians, of which Dr. Havernick's is a fair example, to be too ingenious to have been conceived by the early Hebrews, and maintains that the word represents the survival of a polytheistic stage of Semitic thought. The Jewish Encyclopedia supports the latter assumption with the following concise statement. As far as epigraphic material, traditions, and folklore throw light on the question, the Semites are shown to be of polytheistic leanings. Various schools of philosophy, both Jewish and Gentile, have offered explanations, erudite and otherwise, of the identity of Adam. In this primordial man, the Neoplatonists recognized the Platonic idea of humanity, the archetype or pattern of the genus Homo. Philo Judaeus considered Adam to represent the human mind, which could understand and hence give names to the creatures about it, but could not comprehend, and hence left nameless, the mystery of its own nature. Adam was also likened to the Pythagorean monad, which by virtue of its state of perfect unity could dwell in the Edenic sphere. When, through a process akin to fission, the monad became the duad, the proper symbol of discord and delusion, the creature thus formed was exiled from its celestial home. Thus the twofold man was driven from the paradise belonging to the undivided creation, and cherubim and a flaming sword were placed on guard at the gates of the causal world. Consequently, only after the reestablishment of unity within himself can man regain his primal spiritual state. According to the Isurim, the secret doctrine of Israel taught the first of 4 Adams, each dwelling in one of the 4 Kabbalistic worlds. The first, or heavenly Adam, dwelt alone in the Atzilutic sphere, and within his nature existed all spiritual and material potentialities. The second Adam resided in the sphere of Briah. Like the first Adam, this being was androgynous, and the 10th division of its body, its heel, Malkuth, corresponded to the church of Israel that shall bruise the serpent's head. The third Adam, likewise androgynous, was clothed in a body of light and abode in the sphere of Yetzirah. The fourth Adam was merely the third Adam after the fall into the sphere of Asiyah, at which time the spiritual man took upon himself the animal shell or coat of skins. The fourth Adam was still considered as a single individual, though division had taken place within his nature and 2 shells or physical bodies existed, in one of which was incarnated the masculine and in the other the feminine potency. For further details consult Isaac Meyer. The universal nature of Adam is revealed in the various accounts concerning the substances of which he was formed. It was originally ordained that the dirt to be used in fashioning him was to be derived from the 7 worlds. As these planes, however, refused to give of their substances, the Creator wrenched from them by force the elements to be employed in the Adamic constitution. St. Augustine discovered a notaricon in the name of Adam. He showed that the 4 letters, A-D-A-M, are the first letters of the 4 words, Anatole, Dissis, Arctos, Mesebria, the Greek names for the 4 corners of the world. The same author also sees in Adam a prototype of Christ, for he writes, Adam sleeps that Eve may be formed. Christ dies that the church may be formed. While Adam sleeps, Eve is formed from his side. When Christ is dead, his side is smitten with a spear, that there flow forth sacraments to form the church. Adam himself was the figure of him that was to come. In his recent work, Judaism, George Foot Moore thus describes the proportions of the Adamic man. He was a huge mass that filled the whole world to all the points of the compass. The dust of which his body was formed was gathered from every part of the world, or from the site of the future altar. Of greater interest is the notion that man was created androgynous, because it is probably a bit of foreign lore adapted to the first pair in Genesis. Samuel Bar Naaman, 3rd century, said, When God created Adam, he created him facing both ways. Then he sought him in 2 and made 2 backs, 1 for each figure. The Zohar holds the concept of 2 Adams, the first a divine being who, stepping forth from the highest original darkness, created the second or earthly Adam in his own image. The higher or celestial man was the causal sphere, with its divine potencies and potentialities considered as a gigantic personality, its members, according to the Gnostics, being the basic elements of existence. This Adam may have been symbolized as facing both ways to signify that with one face it looked upon the proximate cause of itself, and with the other face looked upon the vast sea of cosmos into which it was to be immersed. Philosophically, Adam may be regarded as representative of the full spiritual nature of man, androgynous and nor subject to decay. Of this fuller nature the mortal man has little comprehension. Just as spirit contains matter within itself and is both the source and ultimate of the state of denominated matter, so Eve represents the lower or mortal portion that is taken out of or has temporal existence in the greater and fuller spiritual creation. Being representative of the inferior part of the individual, Eve is the temptress who, conspiring with the serpent of mortal knowledge, caused Adam to sink into a trance-like condition in which he was unconscious of his own higher self. When Adam seemingly awoke, he actually sank into sleep, for he no longer was in the spirit but in the body. Division having taken place within him, the true Adam rested in paradise while his lesser part incarnated in a material organism, Eve, and wandered in the darkness of mortal existence. The followers of Mohammed apparently sensed more accurately than the uninitiated of other sects the true mystic import of paradise, for they realized that prior to his fall the dwelling place of man was not in a physical garden in any particular part of the earth, but rather in a higher sphere, the angelic world, watered by 4 mystical streams of life. After his banishment from paradise, Adam alighted on the island of Ceylon, and this spot is sacred to certain Hindu sects who recognize the old island of Lanka, once presumably connected with the mainland by a bridge, as the actual site of the Garden of Eden from which the human race migrated. According to the Arabian Nights, Sir Richard Burton's translation, Adam's footprint may still be seen on the top of a Ceylonese mountain. In the Islamic legends, Adam was later reunited with his wife, and after his death his body was brought to Jerusalem, subsequent to the flood for burial by Melchizedek. See the Quran. The word Adam signifies a species or race, and only for lack of proper understanding has Adam been considered as an individual. As the macrocosm, Adam is the gigantic androgyne, even the demiurgus. As the microcosm, he is the chief production of the demiurgus, and within the nature of the microcosm, the demiurgus established all the qualities and powers which he himself possessed. The demiurgus, however, did not possess immortality, and therefore could not bestow it upon Adam. According to legend, the demiurgus strove to keep man from learning the incompleteness of his maker. The Adamic man consequently partook of the qualities and characteristics of the angels, who were the ministers of the demiurgus. It was affirmed by the Gnostic Christians that the redemption of humanity was assured through the descent of Nous, or universal mind, who was a great spiritual being superior to the demiurgus, and who, entering into the constitution of man, conferred conscious immortality upon the demiurgic fabrications. That phallic symbolism occupies an important place in early Jewish mysticism is indisputable. Hargrave Jennings sees in the figure of Adam a type of the lingam of Shiva, which was a stone representative of the creative power of the world generator. In Gregory's works, writes Jennings, is a passage to the effect that Noah daily prayed in the ark before the body of Adam, i.e., before the phallus, Adam being the primitive phallus, the great procreator of the human race. It may possibly seem strange, he says, that this orison should be daily said before the body of Adam, but it is a most confessed tradition among the Eastern men that Adam was commanded by God that his dead body should be kept above ground till a fullness of time should come to commit it, the middle of the earth, by a priest of the Most High God. This means Mount Moriah, the Meru of India. This body of Adam was embalmed and transmitted from father to son, till at last it was delivered up by Lamech into the hands of Noah. See phallicism. This interpretation somewhat clarifies the Kabbalistic assertion that in the first Adam were contained all the souls of the Israelites. See Sod. Though according to the Aurea Legenda, Adam was buried with the 3 seeds of the tree of knowledge in his mouth, it should be borne in mind that apparently conflicting myths were often woven around a single individual. One of the profound mysteries of Kabbalism is that set forth in the Notarikon, based upon the letters of the name Adam. These 3 letters form the initials of the names Adam, David, and the Messiah, and these 3 personalities were said to contain one soul. As this soul represents the world soul of humanity, Adam signifies the involving soul, the Messiah, the evolving soul, and David that condition of the soul termed epigenesis. In common with certain philosophic institutions of Asia, the Jewish mysteries contained a strange doctrine concerning the shadows of the gods. Gazing down into the abyss, the Elohim beheld their own shadows, and from these shadows patterned the inferior creation. In the dramatic representation of the creation of man in the mysteries, writes the anonymous master of Balliol College, the Alim, Elohim, were represented by men who, when sculpting the form of an Adamite being, of a man, traced the outline of it on their own shadow, or modeled it on their own shadow traced on the wall. This is how the art of drawing originated in Egypt, and the hieroglyphic figures carved on the Egyptian monuments have so little relief that they still resemble a shadow. In the ritualism of the early Jewish mysteries, the pageantry of creation was enacted, the various actors impersonating the creative agencies. The red dirt from which the Adamic man was fashioned may signify fire, particularly since Adam is related to the Yod, or fire flame, which is the first letter of the sacred name Jehovah. In John 2:20 it is written that the temple was 46 years in the building, a statement in which St. Augustine sees a secret and sacred gematria, for according to the Greek philosophy of numbers, the numerical value of the name Adam is 46. Adam thus becomes the type of the temple, for the house of God, like primitive man, was a microcosm or epitome of the universe. In the mysteries, Adam is accredited with having the peculiar power of spiritual generation. Instead of reproducing his kind by the physical generative processes, he caused to issue from himself, or, more correctly, to be reflected upon substance, a shadow of himself. This shadow he then ensouled, and it became a living creature. These shadows, however, remain only as long as the original figure, of which they are the reflections, endures, for with the removal of the original, the host of likenesses vanish with it. Herein is the key to the allegorical creation of Eve out of the side of Adam. For Adam, representative of the idea or pattern, is reflected into the material universe as a multitude of ensouled images, which collectively are designated Eve. According to another story, the division of the sexes took place in the archetypal sphere, hence the shadows in the lower world were divided into two classes, consistent with the orders established in the archetype. In the apparently incomprehensible attraction of one sex for the other, Plato recognized a cosmic urge toward reunion of the severed halves of this archetypal being. Noah and his zodiacal ark, from Myers, Kabbalah. The early church father, notably Tertullian, Firmilian, St. Cyprian, St. Augustine, and St. Chrysostom, recognized in the ark a type or symbol of the Holy Catholic Church. Beda, the Venerable, declared that Noah in all things typified Christ, as Noah, alone of his generation, was just, so Christ alone was without sin. With Christ there was a sevenfold spirit of grace, with Noah 7 righteous persons. Noah, by water and wood, saved his own family. Christ, by baptism and the cross, saves Christians. The ark was built of wood that did not decay. The church is composed of men who will live forever, for this ark means the church which floats upon the waves of the world. The diagram shown above is also reproduced in The Rosicrucians by Hargrave Jennings. This author adds to the original diagram appearing in Antiquitatem Judicarum Libri 9, the signs of the zodiac, placing Aries at the head and continuing in sequential order to Leo, which occupies the 5th cross-section of the ark. Jennings assigns the panel containing the door to the undivided constellation of Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, which is continued into the first subdivision of the 2nd section, and the remaining 4 crest sections to the constellations of Sagittarius to Pisces inclusive. A study of the plate discloses the ark to be divided into 11 main sections, and along the base and roof of each section are shown 3 subdivisions, thus making in all the sacred number 33. Occupying the position corresponding to the generative system of the human body will also be noted the cross upon the door of the central section. 2 openings are shown in the ark. One, the main door representing the orifice through which the animal lives descend into physical existence. The other, a small window proximate to the crown of the head through which the spirit gains liberty according to the ancient rites. When the androgenic Scorpio-Virgo was separated and the balance or harmony made from the Scorpio and placed between Scorpio, i.e. male, and Virgo, i.e. female, then appeared the 32 constellations or signs as we now have them. The ark is 3 stories high, perhaps to symbolize heaven, man, earth. In the figure of the man, notice the parting of the hair in the middle of the forehead and the arrangement of the beard, whiskers, mustache, and the hair on the back of the neck and shoulders. See The Kabbalah by Isaac Meyer. Exactly what is to be inferred by the division of the sexes, as symbolically described in Genesis, is a much debated question. That man was primarily androgynous is quite universally conceded, and it is a reasonable presumption that he will ultimately regain this bisexual state. As to the manner in which this will be accomplished, 2 opinions are advanced. One school of thought affirms that the human soul was actually divided into 2 parts, male and female, and that man remains an unperfected creature until these parts are reunited through the emotion which man calls love. From this concept has grown the much-abused doctrine of soulmates, who must quest through the ages until the complementary part of each severed soul is discovered. The modern concept of marriage is to a certain degree founded upon this ideal. According to the other school, the so-called division of the sexes resulted from suppression of one pole of the androgynous being in order that the vital energies manifesting through it might be diverted to development of the rational faculties. From this point of view, man is still actually androgynous and spiritually complete. But in the material world, the feminine part of man's nature and the masculine part of woman's nature are quiescent. Through spiritual unfoldment and knowledge imparted by the mysteries, however, the latent element in each nature is gradually brought into activity, and ultimately the human being thus regains sexual equilibrium. By this theory, woman is elevated from the position of being man's errant part to one of complete equality. From this point of view, marriage is regarded as a companionship in which 2 complete individualities manifesting opposite polarities are brought into association, that each may thereby awaken the qualities latent in the other, and thus assist in the attainment of individual completeness. The first theory may be said to regard marriage as an end, the second as a means to an end. The deeper schools of philosophy have leaned toward the latter as more adequately acknowledging the infinite potentialities of divine completeness in both aspects of creation. The Christian Church is fundamentally opposed to the theory of marriage, claiming that the highest degree of spirituality is achievable only by those preserving the virginal state. This concept seemingly originated among certain sects of the early Gnostic Christians, who taught that to propagate the human species was to increase and perpetuate the power of the demiurgus, for the lower world was looked upon as an evil fabrication created to ensnare the souls of all born into it. Hence, it was a crime to assist in bringing souls to earth. When, therefore, the unfortunate father or mother shall stand before the final tribunal, all their offspring will also appear and accuse them of being the cause of those miseries attendant upon physical existence. This view is strengthened by the allegory of Adam and Eve, whose sin, through which humanity has been brought low, is universally admitted to have been concerned with the mystery of generation. Mankind, owing to Father Adam its physical existence, regards its progenitor as the primary cause of its misery, and in the judgment day, rising up as a mighty progeny, will accuse its common paternal ancestor. Those Gnostic sects, maintaining a more rational attitude on the subject, declare the very existence of the lower worlds to signify that the Supreme Creator had a definite purpose in their creation. To doubt his judgment was, therefore, a grievous error. The Church, however, seemingly arrogated itself to the astonishing prerogative of correcting God in this respect, for wherever possible it continued to impose celibacy, a practice resulting in an alarming number of neurotics. In the mysteries, celibacy is reserved for those who have reached a certain degree of spiritual unfoldment. When advocated for the mass of unenlightened humanity, however, it becomes a dangerous heresy, fatal alike to both religion and philosophy. As Christendom, in its fanaticism, has blamed every individual Jew for the crucifixion of Jesus, so with equal consistency has it maligned every member of the feminine sex. In vindication of Eve, philosophy claims that the allegory signifies merely that man is tempted by his emotions to depart from the sure path of reason. Many of the early church fathers sought to establish a direct relationship between Adam and Christ, thereby obviously discounting the extremely sinful nature of man's common ancestor, since it is quite certain that when St. Augustine likens Adam to Christ and Eve to the Church, he does not intend to brand the latter institution as the direct cause of the fall of man. For some inexplicable reason, however, religion has ever regarded intellectualism, in fact every form of knowledge, as fatal to man's spiritual growth. The Ignorantin friars are an outstanding example of this attitude. In this ritualistic drama, possibly derived from the Egyptians, Adam banished from the Garden of Eden represents man philosophically exiled from the sphere of truth. Through ignorance, man falls. Through wisdom, he redeems himself. The Garden of Eden represents the house of the mysteries. See the vision of Enoch, in the midst of which grew both the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Man, the banished Adam, seeks to pass from the outer court of the sanctuary, the exterior universe, into the sanctum sanctorum, but before him rises a vast creature armed with a flashing sword that, moving slowly but continually, sweeps clear a wide circle, and through this ring pass not, the Adamic man cannot break. The cherubim addressed the seeker thus: Man, thou art dust, and to dust thou shalt return. Thou wert fashioned by the builder of forms. Thou belongest to the sphere of form, and the breath that was breathed into thy soul was the breath of form, and like a flame it shall flicker out. More than thou art thou canst not be. Thou art a denizen of the outer world, and it is forbidden thee to enter this inner place. And the Adam replies, Many times have I stood within this courtyard and begged admission to my Father's house, and thou hast refused it me, and sent me back to wander in darkness. True it is that I was fashioned out of the dirt, and that my Maker could not confer upon me the boon of immortality. But no more shalt thou send me away, for, wandering in the darkness, I have discovered that the Almighty hath decreed my salvation, because he hath sent out of the most hidden mystery his only begotten, who didst take upon himself the world fashioned by the Demiurgus. Upon the elements of that world was he crucified, and from him hath poured forth the blood of my salvation. And God, entering into his creation, hath quickened it, and established therein a road that leadeth to himself. While my Maker could not give me immortality, immortality was inherent in the very dust of which I was composed, for before the world was fabricated, and before the Demiurgus became the regent of nature, the eternal life had impressed itself upon the face of cosmos. This is its sign, the cross. Do you now deny me entrance, I who have at last learned the mystery of myself? And the voice replies, He who is aware is. Behold. Gazing about him, Adam finds himself in a radiant place, in the midst of which stands a tree with flashing jewels for fruit, and entwined about its trunk a flaming, winged serpent crowned with a diadem of stars. It was the voice of the serpent that had spoken. Who art thou? Demands the Adam. I, the serpent answers, am Satan, who was stoned. I am the adversary, the Lord who is against you, the one who pleads for your destruction before the eternal tribunal. I was your enemy upon the day that you were formed. I have led you into temptation. I have delivered you into the hands of evil. I have maligned you. I have striven ever to achieve your undoing. I am the guardian of the tree of knowledge, and I have sworn that none whom I can lead astray shall partake of its fruits. The Adam replies, For uncounted ages have I been thy servant. In my ignorance I listened to thy words, and they led me into the paths of sorrow. Thou hast placed in my mind dreams of power, and when I struggled to realize those dreams, they brought me naught but pain. Thou hast sowed in me the seeds of desire, and when I lusted after the things of the flesh, agony was my only recompense. Thou hast sent me false prophets and false reasoning, and when I strove to grasp the magnitude of truth, I found thy laws were false, and only dismay rewarded my strivings. I am done with thee forever, O artful spirit. I have tired of thy world of illusions. No longer will I labor in thy vineyards of iniquity. Get thee behind me, tempter, and the host of thy temptations. There is no happiness, no peace, no good, no future in the doctrines of selfishness, hate, and passion preached by thee. All these things do I cast aside. Renounced is thy rule forever. And the serpent makes answer, Behold, O Adam, the nature of thy adversary. The serpent disappears in a blinding sunburst of radiance, and in its place stands an angel resplendent in shining golden garments, with great scarlet wings that spread from one corner of the heavens to the other. Dismayed and awestruck, the Adam falls before the divine creature. I am the Lord who is against thee, and thus accomplishes thy salvation, continues the voice. Thou hast hated me, but through the ages yet to be, Thou shalt bless me, for I have led thee out of the sphere of the demiurgus. I have turned thee against the illusion of worldliness. I have weaned thee of desire. I have awakened in thy soul the immortality of which I myself partake. Follow me, O Adam, for I am the way, the life, and the truth.